Chapter 1879. How thick-skinned was Chu Yang? With a righteous expression, he said, "If the room is smaller, then so be it. I don't mind. Both of you are my women. It's proper for me to do something with both of you." In order to emphasize, he even emphasized the word certain. The two women blushed even more. Their beauty was truly out of this world. Wu Qianqian said, You wanted us to do that just now. That's also proper. Of course it's proper. If it wasn't proper, would both of you agree? Just now, you guys personally promised and agreed to it. It can be seen that this is a serious matter. Novel chapters are updated the fastest. Chu Yang laughed mischievously. You still dare to say. You still dare to say. Thinking of how they were forced to agree just now, both of them felt hot all over. Forget it, forget it. I'll leave this small world to both of you for the time being. Chu Yang turned and slipped away. I'll go ahead and take a look. The two women didn't have time to protest. Chu Yang stretched out his hand and touched Tai Bu Tian's soft breasts. Then, he rubbed Wu Qianqian's perky buttocks. The two women screamed in surprise. Chu Yang laughed heartily. This is so soft, and this is so big. His smug expression disappeared in a flash. The two women looked at each other. Their faces were red and didn't fade for a long time. Facing this woman who shared a man with them, both of them felt a little complicated. Their eyes flickered a few times and they smiled bitterly at the same time. You. Both of them opened and closed their mouths at the same time. You first. You first. Again, both of them opened and closed their mouths at the same time. The two of them couldn't help but look at each other. At the same time, they smiled. This smile seemed to have completely broken the stiff atmosphere. Your Majesty. What should we do now? Wu Qianqian frowned. Tai Bu also smiled bitterly. What should they do? What else could they do? They could only do it. The two women were very opinionated and had their own ideas. In such a situation, although they were still discussing it verbally, it was just a kind of subconscious psychological barrier that they couldn't accept for the time being. It was completely different from the actual decision. There's no other way. Anyway, there's nothing I can do. Tai Bu shook her head. Even if we resist, it will be of no avail. It will only lead to greater suppression. Don't forget that he can use shameless and hooligan methods to achieve his goal. Can you be more shameless than him? Wu Qianqian blushed and said, Even if there's no other way, we have to think of some countermeasures. Don't tell me that there's no other way but to let him do whatever he wants. Then we'll look like shit. Tai Bu snorted and said with a sideways glance, If you don't let him do as he pleases, do you think you'll be able to handle him? Since you've become his woman, accept your fate. Wu Qianqian blushed. He thought of Chu Yang's beast-like charge. That seemingly never-ending energy made her feel weak all over. She had to admit that when facing such an energetic madman, ZJ alone was definitely not enough. Even the two of them, ZJ and Tai Bu, could barely handle it, let alone ZJ alone. If ZJ was alone, then it would be terrible. Forget it. Accept your fate. Besides, Tai Bu said indifferently, you also looked like you were enjoying it just now. You were so loud and unrestrained. Wu Qianqian was so ashamed that she couldn't show her face. She said angrily, Who are you talking about? Are you talking about ZJ? You started moaning when he was on top of you just now. You must have fainted in the end, right? You closed your eyes and moaned and screamed. You don't know shame and still have the cheek to talk about others. Tai Bu pounced on her shyly. Watch me beat you to death, you little slut who's full of nonsense. Wu Qianqian was not to be outdone. She immediately retaliated. The two women tangled together. Not long after, their hair was in a mess and they were panting heavily. But with this commotion, it also meant that this matter had become a foregone conclusion, and had been accepted, after a long, long time. Okay, let's talk about something serious. Tai Bu tidied up ZJ's clothes. Qian, our situation in this period of time isn't very good. We've just come up and our foundation is especially unstable. It's good that you're here to help me. I can also heave a sigh of relief. Wu Qianqian blushed. I can help you. Didn't I help you? Wu Qianqian was not like Tai Butian. As a first-time wife, she was sensitive. She was used to talking about things in a special way. You're really a little lecherous woman. Tai Butian pursed her lips and said in a low voice, let's not talk about other things. Didn't you manage the Heavenly Armament Pavilion in Chu Yang's place before? Now, the rules will be the same as before. You have the skills in this area. It's not a problem at all. We can make the best use of your talents. Then tonight you still want to run away at night? Tai Butian sighed. Wu Qianqian's cheeks flushed red. Also, we can't give up on our cultivation. We must improve as quickly as possible. Tai Butian's gaze was focused as she said indifferently, although you and I are both women, we once controlled the world. If women like us blindly stay behind a man's back and seek protection, how can we accept it? Wu Qianqian nodded deeply. You've reached the stage of ZJ now? I should be at the level of human level now. Tai Butian said, if not for Chu Yang's large amount of elixirs and the fact that he helped me change my muscles and cleanse my marrow every day, I wouldn't have reached this stage. Although I'm at the level of human level, I'm still far from a true expert. What about you? Tai Butian asked Wu Qianqian. I've just woken up. How can my cultivation have reached the stage of ZJ now? When I was in a coma, I was only around the 5th tier of martial saint level. Now, Wu Qianqian frowned and said hesitantly, since I woke up this time, I feel that the power in my body has taken a big step forward. But I'm really not sure what level I've reached. Circulate your energy and let me see. Tai Butian said with a trace of fantasy. After a long while. Oh my God. What's going on? It can't be. Tai Butian exclaimed. She was completely shocked by Wu Qianqian. You've actually reached the level of Earth level. This is too unbelievable, right? Wu Qianqian also had a perplexed look on her face. She said, I'm not at the level of Earth level. Looking at the faint yellow light that was emitting from ZJ's body, Wu Qianqian also felt a little dizzy. How could they be at the level of Earth level? In the process of reversing life and death, Chu Yang had used large amounts of energy and elixirs. During the period when Wu Qianqian was in a coma, Chu Yang had fed her countless treasures. The spring of life that others yearned for was not cherished by Wu Qianqian at all. She directly treated it as her daily drinking water. There was also the super heavy pill and the resurrection grass that was more than 150,000 years old. They had completely stimulated the medicinal effects in her body. Wu Qianqian's meridians had completely collapsed and reformed, causing the medicinal effects hidden in her body to go to waste. They were all converted into Wu Qianqian's own cultivation. This allowed Wu Qianqian's cultivation to soar to the heavens. However, Wu Qianqian was indeed unaware of all these. Tai Butian was naturally even more unaware. In fact, even Chu Yang himself was a little confused. Unless the sword spirit helped to analyze from the beginning, only then would they know the whole story. Otherwise, it would be a complete mystery. Looks like I need to speed up my cultivation. Tai Butian muttered. Then, she suddenly thought of ZJ and blushed. She said, Qian, I remember your master and his wife's martial arts. Wu Qian was very smart. She immediately understood. She said with a red face, you're talking about the moon breeze dual cultivation technique? Tai Butian's face was flushed red. She said, since that can't be avoided, why don't we just use it to cultivate? This is greatly beneficial to the three of us. Then, Wu Qian couldn't restrain her shyness. She blushed and lowered her head. She rolled her eyes a few times. Then, she bit her lips and nodded slightly. That night, Chu Yang could really be said to have enjoyed all the luck in the world. Furthermore, the effects of the moon breeze dual cultivation technique, when practiced by people like Chu Yang, Tai Butian, and Wu Qianqian, were super immediate. In just one night, all three of them had reached a certain level of cultivation. Their cultivation had become much stronger, and they could feel that they were advancing rapidly. This was especially true for Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian. Both of them had special physiques and extraordinary talents. Thus, This feeling was especially strong. As for Tai Butian, although her aptitude was slightly inferior to the other two and was slightly slower, the icy heart jade bone physique was also an extremely rare physique. Even in the entire heaven circuit, it was considered a peerless talent. It was even better than those youths who had been upgraded by Chu Yang's magic treasures. However, Tai Butian became a little anxious. ZJ's cultivation was not as good as Chu Yang's to begin with. Now, he was falling behind step by step. How could this be? An emperor should have the dignity of an emperor. Even though she was a woman, her dignity was still the same. Thus, in the end, Tai Butian couldn't care less about her shyness anymore. She pestered Chu Yang to cultivate crazily. Naturally, Chu Yang would never refuse such an invitation. In the end, due to a certain someone's stubbornness, Tai Butian actually fainted while practicing. It was obvious that Minister Chu was very hardworking in his cultivation. Chu Yang held the beautiful woman in his arms. The two of them were still connected as they fell asleep in each other's arms. In the Chu clan's courtyard, in the shade of the small courtyard where Tai Butian was staying, brother who was lying comfortably on the ground. Ever since he had digested the 20 souls of purple crystal that Chu Yang had given him, he had been paid to do so. Having recovered his cultivation, brother who naturally had to shoulder the heavy responsibility of protecting Tai Butian. With brother Tiger's protection, Chu Yang was finally relieved. The next morning, Chu Yang had just woken up when someone came to report that there was a Duke Yun Tian requesting an audience. Yun Tian? Chu Yang was puzzled. He's here for an audience. Towards this person, Chu Yang was extremely wary. In these few days, that invisible pressure in ZJ's heart had been increasing, causing Chu Yang to be constantly paranoid. However, he still couldn't find anything strange about it. However, Yun Tian's arrival today made Chu Yang's heart light up. That inexplicable pressure, could it be that it came from some kind of scheme of Yun Tian's? To be continued. Chapter 1880. Ask him to wait for a moment, I'll go over now. Chu Yang's face darkened. Yun Tian actually brought quite a number of gifts when he came over this time. He looked a little helpless. He didn't expect Yuan Shitu to be so impatient. Since Yuan Shitu was impatient, Yun Tian could only bring forward the plan. If Chu Yang was killed by Yuan Shitu, the truth of why Dreamlike Mortal World and Ling Xiao sect destroyed the Iron Blood Alliance would be revealed. When he saw Chu Yang, he laughed and said, "Brother Chu, I was in a hurry last time and forgot the most basic etiquette. Today, I'm here to make up for it. Come, look, this is the famous yellow ginseng wine of our extreme heaven. This is the crimson lotus, this is the Qianjun brush, this is the exquisite flower, this time, Yun Tian actually brought a whole carriage full of gifts as if he was moving house. Not only were there local specialties, there were also some rare treasures in the Eastern Royal Heavenly Capital. In addition, he had red lips, white teeth, and an elegant demeanor, which made people have a good impression of him. Brother Yun, you're too polite. How can I dare to accept such a generous gift? Chu Yang welcomed him with a hearty smile. As he was being polite, he turned his head and instructed Du and Sunkong, arrange for people to carry the gifts into the storeroom. Although he didn't dare to accept it verbally, his actions weren't polite at all. Sigh, he finally understood the feeling of a corrupt official. Since they've already delivered the gifts to me, how can I let them take them back? How embarrassing, they're quite heavy. Under the effect of the resurrection grass, Du and Sunkong had completely dissolved the saber chi that had been stored in his body for many years. Although his old injuries had just healed, he was still recovering. Although his old wounds had healed, his body was still somewhat weak, but he had completely gotten rid of his chronic ailments. It was only a matter of time before he could recover. But in terms of appearance, he was still the same as before. He still had a hunched back and coughed from time to time. He called a few warriors to carry the gifts down. Brother Chu, the atmosphere here seems to be very different these few days. Yun Tian looked thoughtfully at the few burly men who came to carry the gifts. With his eyesight, he could tell at a glance. None of these people were weak. At the very least, they were at the earth stage. Moving something would require the help of an earth-grade expert. A personal attendant who cooks tea, cooks, washes clothes, and folds blankets, would have to be at least at the heaven stage. What a grand show of extravagance. Yes, I've been recruiting people before, but I haven't been able to find anyone. It's not. In the past 2 days, I've finally found a few thick-skinned guards to guard the house. Perhaps it's all thanks to Brother Yoon. Speaking of which, it's really a coincidence. You came over that day, and I've already recruited some people. Hey. The two of them chatted as if they had been good friends for many years. He entered the living room and served tea. The host and the guest took their seats. They chatted cheerfully and wittily, revealing boundless harmony and friendship. However, the two of them were in the same situation. A sentence would go through their minds a few times before they could say it out loud. Every sentence that the other party said would go through their minds a few times before they answered. Both of them knew that the person sitting in front of them was not an ordinary person. Brother Chu, something major happened a few days ago. Yoon Tian's expression was solemn. Oh, something major could actually move someone like Brother Yoon? Chu Yang's face was full of curiosity. The Iron Blood Alliance was destroyed. Yoon Tian heaved a long sigh. It can be considered a super sect. Although it's at the bottom, it's still a pity that it was destroyed in a single night. Chu Yang smiled. Iron Blood Alliance. Yes, I heard that this sect is very impressive. I heard that the people who did it were Dreamlike Veranda and Ling Xiao faction. Yoon Tian saw that Chu Yang was unmoved and added another sentence. That's what I heard. However, most of the rumors in the martial world are baseless. This is not surprising. Chu Yang raised his teacup. Brother Yoon, please have some tea. This tea of mine is. How could Yoon Tian be interested in listening to him talk about the tea? But he also knew that Chu Yang was changing the topic. He calmly complimented him a few times and brought the topic back. How could such a big sect be destroyed so easily? This is a little strange. Chu Yang said solemnly and pretentiously, this is the martial world. Old man, this is not an official's world. Yoon Tian cursed angrily in his heart. His face was full of smiles. That's right, the martial world is filled with emotions. However, what I'm curious about is, the Iron Blood Alliance did not offend anyone. How could it be destroyed in a single night? As he said that, Yoon Tian suddenly raised his head and looked straight into Chu Yang's eyes. He smiled and said, Brother Chu, do you know who the Iron Blood Alliance offended? Chu Yang smiled and said, I don't know about this. Who knows, we might provoke someone we can't afford to provoke in the Jianghu. We must learn from the mistakes of others. We must be cautious in everything we do, Brother Yoon. Yoon Tian's pupils shrank. He could hear the warning in Chu Yang's words. He smiled and said, same to you. We both need to take care of ourselves. The first round ended. On the surface, it looked like they had not gained anything. However, there were some things that both sides were well aware of. Chu Yang knew that Yoon Tian was suspecting Chu Yang. Or rather, Chu Yang knew that Chu Yang was certain. Since that was the case, there was no harm in making things even more confusing. Yoon Tian could also tell that Chu Yang was not denying it. Haha. In these few days, Dreamlike Veranda and Soaring Firmament faction have really been in the limelight. Yoon Tian was a little envious. Yoon Tian came over and whispered mysteriously, Brother Chu, you must know that Dreamlike Veranda and Soaring Firmament faction have obtained great benefits from destroying the Iron Blood Alliance this time. Chu Yang smiled faintly. Sometimes, there will be benefits in life. Don't force it. Hearing his rejection, Yoon Tian leaned back and said lightly, Brother Chu, it's better to enjoy it together than to enjoy it alone. Dreamlike Veranda and Soaring Firmament faction are so despicable. They want to monopolize all the benefits. This is not the way of the martial world. Chu Yang said calmly, with Brother Yoon's strength, it's also possible for you to forcefully take a share of the benefits from the two big sects. However, I can't do anything about it. If the two big sects don't find trouble with me, I'll thank the heavens and earth. Yoon Tian smiled. However, this matter now seems to have something to do with you. Chu Yang laughed. Oh. Yoon Tian smiled faintly, Brother Chu. Brother Chu, I'll send people out to hunt down the remaining members of the Iron Blood Alliance. However, I don't know if I can get the head. Where should I send it? Brother Chu, please teach me. Yun Tian smiled faintly. He had absolute confidence. He believed that Chu Yang knew what he meant. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows and smiled. This is definitely not the case. He looked at Yun Tian with a warm smile. His eyes were firm and disdainful. Leave me. This sword master can accept anything in this lifetime, but I can't accept a woman. Brother Chu. You're really. Ha ha ha. Yun Tian changed very quickly. His smile immediately became cute and amiable. Others eat meat. I have to drink some soup. Chu Yang looked at him from the corner of his eyes. You want to drink soup tilde tilde? The tone of the word soup was a little high, making it sound a little strange. The meaning was obvious. I want to drink soup. Beg me. Yun Tian's fair and handsome face showed no signs of embarrassment. He immediately smiled. However, if Brother Chu nods, I won't even be able to drink soup. Chu Yang was alarmed. This person is so shrewd. He's really a scary opponent. Heavenly Sword Alliance. It was also the biggest sect. If Heavenly Sword Alliance spent all their resources on one person. Or, it would be better to distribute some resources. Even if they could weaken this guy by a little, it would be a huge gain. Yes. Men, bring me my 12 jade screens. Chu Yang clapped his hands. 12 white-clothed boys and girls entered in a single file. Each of them held a white jade screen in their hands. On it were beautiful scenes of the 4 seasons. The jade was very ordinary white jade. It was an extremely ordinary painting technique. Yun Tian looked at the screen and was a little confused. What did this mean? Could it be that the 2 super sects were fighting for this? Could this be a treasure map? Just as he was thinking, a mosquito-like voice sounded in his ears. It was full of excitement. Young master, each of these 12 boys is a top-notch genius. Their innate talent, temperament, and intelligence are all 1 in a million. Compared to Jin Chengyun and the others in the sect, their talents are much, much higher. Jin Chengyun was the second genius in Heavenly Sword Alliance, second only to ZJ. Yun Tian was shocked. His face turned a little red. He raised his head and looked at the 12 boys. Yes, each of them was pure gold and unpolished jade. Every one of them was a priceless treasure in the eyes of all the martial arts sect. There is no one better than him. The value of this kind of genius. In fact, he was even better than Shuezian and the others in terms of his prowess. Different identities and different statuses. Their horizons were also different. All of you can leave. Chu Yang waved his hand. The 12 boys bowed at the same time. They put down the screen and walked out. Yun Tian looked at the 12 boys reluctantly. He didn't say anything for a long time. He was deep in thought. No wonder Shuezian and Hai Mingbo were so anxious. No wonder the 2 big sects were so abnormal. So that's why. This was indeed a huge matter that was worthy of any sect's attention. It was a huge matter that could turn the world upside down. If dreamlike mortal world had many such geniuses, Heavenly Sword Alliance's position as the overlord would be shaky in less than 2,000 years. After a long time, Yun Tian raised his head and looked at the 12 ordinary white jade screens. He praised sincerely, they're really priceless treasures. Brother Chu, I wonder how many of these priceless treasures you can take out? Chu Yang said lightly, that depends. How many do you want? Yun Tian's heart skipped a beat. How many do I want? Does this mean that he can take out as many as I want? What if I want 1,000? Yun Tian's eyes became extremely sharp. Brother Chu, can you take it out? Chu Yang smiled. It's okay if you have a big appetite. However, you have to know your limits. Yun Tian's pupils shrank. He could take it out. He could. What kind of concept was this? This was a potential that could overturn the heavens. Yun Tian's heart started to beat wildly. To be continued. P.S. I didn't rush up. It's okay. I'll continue to explode. Everyone, please cast your monthly votes. Someone asked me, Proud World is nearing its end. Who do you think you are to fight for it? Do you have the confidence to fight for it? I laughed. Who do I think I am to fight for it? Do I have the confidence to fight for it? Haha. Every time I fight for the monthly votes, I have the confidence to fight for it. However, I will fight all the way. Once I start fighting, I won't turn back no matter if I win or lose. Having the confidence is not important. Whether I dare to fight for it, whether I dare to shout, is very important. I dare. It's just fighting, that's all. Chapter 1881. I only have 1,500 heads now. Yun Tian's voice was solemn. I'm still hunting. Brother Chu, how many treasures did Dreamlike Veranda take away? Chu Yang smiled lightly. Dreamlike Veranda has a big appetite too. Yun Tian's heart sank. Dreamlike Veranda has a big appetite too. Although this sentence was clearly stated, it also clearly pointed out that Dreamlike Veranda had definitely taken away a lot of people. Since that was the case, the number one sect of the Sky Sword Alliance was going to suffer a huge blow. Chu Yang chuckled and said, if the head is fake, then even a single treasure will be yours. Yun Tian nodded. Of course. Novel chapters are updated the fastest. But forgive me for asking, where did Brother Chu get these treasures? Chu Yang sighed. Where do the auction items come from? These are the problems. Yun Tian was finally moved. He looked deeply at Chu Yang and nodded deeply. Thank you for telling me, Brother Chu. Chu Yang smiled. But this Iron Blood Alliance has too few people. At most, there are only a few thousand of them left. It's not enough to kill. Yun Tian frowned. Brother Chu, is there any other way? Tens of thousands of Iron Blood Alliance had been killed. A few thousand of them were not enough to kill. There were probably only a few people in the entire Heaven Imperial Court who were qualified to say such words. That elder likes heavenly treasures. The more high-end, the rarer, the better. Also, high-end forging materials. Chu Yang raised his eyebrows and said somewhat ambiguously. Yun Tian nodded and immediately got up. Brother Chu, I'll take my leave now. Take care, I won't send you off. Chu Yang cupped his fists. He smiled and bowed. His eyes flickered slightly. He thought to himself, Yun Tian is here. This bunch of kids probably have a bright future. Why not find a chance to get rid of Yun Tian? If Yun Tian was killed, Sky Sword Alliance, as the number one sect of Heaven Imperial Court, would pour all its resources on this bunch of kids. Chu Yang thought to himself. However, Yun Tian was an old enemy. Should he kill him now? Also, this matter, how should he plan it? Yun Tian's face was heavy. His footsteps were heavy as he hurried away. His heart was in turmoil. At the same time, he could not help but feel a wave of regret. This time, the government was a little too hasty. They didn't expect that damn Yuan Shitu to make a move. Or could it be stopped? Yun Tian arranged for the mysterious expert by his side to go back and organize these matters. After that, he hurriedly flew towards Mo Yun Tian's camp. The path of Yuan Shu. It's fine if you don't restrain yourself, but this time, you must restrain yourself. Don't ruin my plans. But when they arrived at Mo Yun Tian's camp and asked, Yuan Shitu was not there. He left early in the morning. Yun Tian's vision turned black and he immediately turned around to return to the Chu family's courtyard. Yuan Shitu was standing in the sky above the Chu family, but no one could see him. This was the unique divine skill of the Ghost Hunter stealth. Ever since Yun Tian entered the Chu clan's courtyard, Yuan Shitu was standing right here. Thinking of what Yun Tian said last night, Yuan Shitu's heart burned. I guarantee it. She was definitely a peerless beauty. It's definitely a pure yin body. Yuan Shitu couldn't hold it in anymore. Ever since he came here, the godly source realm was sealed and he couldn't enter at all. He wanted to cultivate, but there was a mysterious guy who absorbed the essence of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth every day. He wanted to dual cultivate, but he came out in a hurry this time and didn't bring any female companions. He was already tired of it. He wanted to use the local resources, but this purple cloud city was really too barren. Even a beauty that caught his eye was useless. And he had to deal with the provocation of strangers every day. Yuan Shitu only felt that these days were extremely boring. In the words of the government, He was already bored out of his mind. When he heard this news, how could he not be tempted? He also suspected that this was a trap that Yun Tian had dug for the government. But he was immediately blinded by his desire. After investigating Chu Yang's information, he found out that he was a guy who had just ascended with dogshit luck. He was even more relieved. Wasn't it just a mysterious expert who asked you to do one thing? But why would such a mysterious expert offend the entire Mo Yuntian for a small person like you? Besides, it was just a woman. Yuan Shitu was completely relieved. The sect's experts and elders had also advised him before, but Yuan Shitu was full of confidence. Don't worry, if it's really suitable, I will personally come out and discuss with that Chu Yang. I will give him enough face. I just want a woman. Would such a small person dare to not know what's good for him? Besides, I won't treat his woman badly. It's better than being by his side and being afraid of him, right? Besides, I'm not sure if I can take a fancy to his woman. Besides, a person like Chu Yang, if she's really a peerless beauty, can he keep her? Staying by his side will only cause trouble. The group of elders couldn't do anything about him, so they could only send people to protect him secretly. They also knew that Yuan Shitu's cultivation method was special. After coming here, he couldn't cultivate and was already close to the point of being burned by internal fire. His YJNG had reached the point where he needed to find a pure yin female body to mediate. At most, we'll compensate Chu Yang more after this. Everyone was in Ghost's territory and was used to this kind of thing. Besides, how could you get a favor from Ghost's territory just by giving away a woman? This Chu Yang was able to get such an advantage because this was East Royal Sky. If this was Ink Cloud Sky, Humph, he should be kowtowing and thanking them. Not long after Yun Tian and Chu Yang went in, Yuan Shitu was searching one by one when the door opened. Two slender women walked out of the room. There was even a hint of laziness. It was Tai Butian and Wu Qianqian. After a night of cultivation, although the two women were still weak, their faces were glowing. Of course, Tai Butian didn't forget to hide her appearance. Even Wu Qianqian's face was darkened. But this still couldn't hide the peerless charm that was on the verge of being revealed. Especially when it was just moistened by rain and dew. That kind of languid amorous feeling was even more dazzling. Now, it was the first day of Wu Qianqian's arrival. It was also the first day of preparing to take over some things in the Chu clan. The two women didn't dare to sleep too much and woke up early. Tai Butian brought them out, talking and laughing. Yuan Shitu's eyes widened in an instant. It wasn't just one, it was two. Top quality. Both of them were top quality. Yuan Shitu's heart was burning. Perhaps others couldn't see the inner beauty of the two women and couldn't see through their disguises. But Yuan Shitu was a professional, and he had a special divine skill. Why can't I see it? These two women were of a much higher quality than the women that ZJ had ever had. They both had a pure yin body and were talented. This kind of woman was definitely the most beautiful of all. How could they be so mediocre? Yuan Shitu's heart was burning. Only his groin was restless. A strong hatred rose from his heart. These two women. They actually weren't chaste. This was simply a bastard. Such top-quality women. They actually let that Chu Yang, who was worse than a dog's fart, take the lead. Do you think you deserve to have such a woman? What a waste of God's gift. Yuan Shitu watched the two women walk away. He couldn't wait to jump down and strip them naked. But this was the Eastern Royal Sky. Once ZJ did that, the Eastern Royal Sky's government would step in. Moreover, this guy had Yang Russian as his backing. However, if they were to brazenly ask for it, promising great benefits would completely eliminate any future troubles. This guy was just a bumpkin who had just ascended. How much had he seen? I casually gave him some benefits, and this guy was so grateful that he offered the beauties to me with both hands. As soon as he thought of it, Yuan Shitu jumped out excitedly. He came to the entrance of the Chu clan's courtyard and asked to see Chu Yang. He really couldn't tolerate it anymore. Chu Yang was stunned when he received the report. Yuan Shitu of Moyun Heaven? I heard that he was also a young leader. What's going on? I received 3 last time, and another one came this time. But why did this one come so late, and it was a little sudden? He said, please come in. I'm Yuan Shitu. This is my first time visiting. Greetings, Brother Chu. Yuan Shitu's eyes flashed with a strange light. Brother Yuan, nice to meet you. Your presence brings light to my humble abode. Chu Yang smiled warmly and welcomed Yuan Shitu into the living room. As for his bodyguards, he arranged for them to stay in the side room. Brother Chu is too courteous. I came here today for 2 reasons. Firstly, I wanted to see Brother Chu's face. Secondly, I sincerely want to make friends with Brother Chu. Brother Tian and the other 2 hold Brother Chu in high regard. Yuan Shulu's feminine voice was also very amiable. Walking into the living room, the 2 sat down as the host and guest. The maid served tea. The 2 talked and laughed, looking very harmonious. But Chu Yang faintly felt that this guy was very hostile towards ZJ, and he should be very angry. It was as if he couldn't control himself. What's going on? Did I offend him? Brother Chu, you and I feel like old friends today. We really hit it off very well. Yuan Shitu took out a warm white jade box from his bosom. It was shining brightly and said, this is the first time we met. This is a gift for your wife. Oh. Chu Yang reached out to receive it. Haha, this must be something good. I wonder what it is. Let me see. Yuan Shitu immediately retracted his hand and laughed. Brother Chu, this is not for you. You can't touch it. Brother Chu, please invite your wife to let me meet you, and then I will give you a gift to show my sincerity. A woman with a pure yin body was very rare. How could he let her stay with such a mortal? Chu Yang laughed and said, Brother Yuan, I'm afraid you will be disappointed. Your sister-in-law is extremely ugly. She really can't be seen in public. It's better not to let her come out. Chu Yang's way of addressing him was remarkable. Your sister-in-law. If these words were said to Jiu Du Xing and the others, there would be no problem at all. Because of their friendship. But for Yuan Shitu, it was a little too intimate. Moreover, Yuan Shitu was actually older than Chu Yang, but he kept calling Chu Yang Brother Chu. For Yuan Shitu, this tone was just a humble courtesy. However, Chu Yang now regarded himself as the big brother. He didn't call Yuan Shitu my wife, but directly called Yuan Shitu your sister-in-law. He was sincerely taking advantage of Yuan Shitu. Your sister-in-law. It's your sister-in-law. Your sister-in-law is extremely ugly. Chu Yang thought viciously. To be continued. P.S. Continue to write the 3rd update. Without saved manuscripts, it's so sad. Sigh, on Aoshi's birthday, I was so excited that I posted all 5 manuscripts. And I even worked overtime to post 10 more. What made me hit the wall the most was that it wasn't even double. What made me hit the wall even more was that now they are competing for monthly votes. What made me hit the wall the most was that the sub-moderators and administrators didn't sympathize with me. Who told you not to save it? What made me hit the wall even more was their analogy. You can't keep cornbread in a doghouse. But, before hitting the wall, you must ask for monthly vote. Chapter 1882. As soon as Yuan Shitu spoke, Chu Yang immediately understood that the prophecy Tai Butian's tribulation had come. Why was he still willing to let Tai Butian appear? This guy in front of him was obviously not a good person. He was a lecherous monster. From P. You want to see that person's wife the first time you visit him. Yuan Shitu's face stiffened. He said coldly, Does Brother Chu think that I'm not worthy to see your wife? He was impatient. You're just a small ant. How dare you reject me? You're really courting death. Chu Yang smiled faintly. It's really inconvenient for my wife to show her face. Chu Yang still looked amiable on the surface, but his heart was already filled with murderous intent. Yuan Shitu sneered. We're brothers. Is Brother Chu going to reject me when I want to see my sister-in-law? That would be too much of a waste of time. Since that's the case, then forget it. Chu Yang nodded and said, Indeed, it's not good enough. But I can only be mean this once. Since Brother Yuan said so yourself, you're really magnanimous. I'm relieved. Ha ha. Yuan Shitu's words were meant to force Chu Yang. However, He didn't expect Chu Yang to admit it directly. Thus, he went with the flow and blocked this matter. He even complimented Yuan Shitu and completely sealed his words. Yuan Shitu was at a disadvantage. He was furious. He smiled evilly and said, "Sister-in-law's wife must be a great beauty. No wonder Brother Chu is so reluctant to let her come out. You should keep the beauty for yourself." Chu Yang's smiling face suddenly sank. It was as if a storm was about to come. He said slowly, "It doesn't matter if she's beautiful or not. The key is that she's my woman. Even if she's not beautiful, she's the most beautiful in my heart." Yuan Shitu sneered. Brother Chu is a sentimental person. Chu Yang's body leaned back. He lay on the chair and said softly, "Sentimental is better than heartless." Yuan Shitu nodded slowly and said eerily, "But, what if I insist on seeing your wife today?" If he asked for a normal meeting, he wouldn't allow it. Therefore, Yuan Shitu's words were purely meant to infuriate Chu Yang. As long as he acted up first, he could continue to act on the spot. Chu Yang's eyes were already flickering with cold light. He smiled and said, "What if I don't let you see her?" Yuan Shitu's eyes turned cold and he said lightly, "Brother Chu, let's not beat around the bush. We are all men and we know each other. This little brother has taken a fancy to sister-in-law's wife. If Brother Chu has any conditions, please feel free to state them. As long as Brother Chu agrees, I guarantee that Brother Chu will live a life of luxury in the Heaven Tower. No one dared to provoke him. He will give Brother Chu 3 top-notch secret manuals of the sect as well as all the cultivation necessities. He will also be responsible for recommending Brother Chu to become a disciple of a famous teacher in the sect. Within 10 years, he would become a saint. Within 100 years, he would reach the Deva realm. What do you think?" Yuan Shitu said a long list of conditions in a condescending tone. If it was someone else, including the people who Yuan Shu had contacted in the same way, any one of his conditions would be enough to make those people offer their wives. After all, in this world where the strong were respected, women were just a pastime. Strength was the most important thing, but considering that this was the Eastern Royal Heaven and Yuan Shitu himself was very willing, he simply gave out conditions that no one could refuse. In his opinion, Chu Yang's next step would be to immediately kneel on the ground and accept with tears of gratitude. Then, he would return with a beauty in his arms. There was no doubt about this. Chu Yang's face turned completely cold and a murderous intent slowly rose from his body. He said slowly, "Brother Yuan, you must be joking. There is no room for discussion on this matter. Send him off." He actually gave the order to leave. He thought to himself, this guy should be Tai Butian's biggest threat. How can I kill him? Yuan Shitu had dominated the Black Cloud Heaven and was welcomed everywhere. When had he ever been asked to leave? With a sinister smile on his face, he nodded vigorously. Suddenly, he laughed lecherously and said, "It seems that sister-in-law's wife is not only beautiful, but also very good in bed. Otherwise, Brother Chu wouldn't cherish her so much and not be willing to share her with others. You don't even want to let others see her. But, Brother Chu, can you accept such good fortune?" There was no longer any concealment in this sentence. There was a kind of deliberate obscenity in it. There was also a strong sense of threat. "If you don't agree, I'll kill and snatch her away. She's still mine." This sentence was just short of saying it out loud. Chu Yang only felt a rush of anger. He crossed his legs and shook his body slowly. He said lightly, "Why is Brother Yuan so interested in other people's wives? Does Brother Yuan like to share the person beside you? Then why don't you introduce your wife to me first? Or introduce her to everyone? It's also convenient for me to see your wife's skills." Yuan Shitu's intention was undoubtedly very obvious. It was so obvious that as long as one was a man, he wouldn't be able to tolerate it. Chu Yang had tolerated it for a long time. He finally didn't want to tolerate it anymore. Damn it, let's do it. If a man could tolerate this, he really couldn't be considered a man. You, impudent. Yuan Shitu was furious. Motherfucker impudent. Chu Yang stood up suddenly and sneered, "Do you have to see other people's wives? Who the fuck do you think you are? You're not my son or grandson. Do you think you can see her just because you want to? Do you have that qualification? Bastard. If I don't scold you, why do you feel so good about yourself? Bah. Chu Yang spat and scolded angrily. Do you really think you're a tortoise just because you're a bastard? Fuck. You're a young leader with this kind of conduct. What kind of leader can you be? Go whoring as a leader. You're really shameless. I've just given you some face, and you fucking want to open a dye house. Tell me, what else can a person like you do besides dyeing your own hat green? By the way, you seem to like to share with others. Your hat has already turned green. Light green, dark green, or dark green. Or maybe it's so green that it's turning black. You didn't become a leader by sharing, right? Otherwise, why would you ask to share as soon as you see me? I was wondering why you were so awesome. So it's because of your wife. Yuan Shutu was so angry that his whole body trembled. He stared at Chu Yang and hissed, "You, say it again." Fuck. Chu Yang exclaimed, "There's actually someone who likes to be scolded. It's not enough to be scolded by me once. You actually want to listen to it again. You're really a bastard. Your skin is as hard as a bastard's shell. Unfortunately, even if you want to listen to it, I don't have the time. Do you think everyone has so many spitballs to play with you? Who the fuck are you?" Before Chu Yang's voice died away, Yuan Shutu had already roared angrily and jumped up. Wisps of black gas came out of his body. He shook his hand and grabbed at Chu Yang's head. His hand suddenly expanded, and the range of his attack was about 1/2 foot. It was like a thunderbolt, and he slapped down. Obviously, this claw was meant to kill Chu Yang. One strike to kill, one strike to kill. Obviously, he hated Chu Yang to the core. With this grab, the force was formed. Wind blew in all directions, and clouds came from all directions. The whole world was suddenly filled with the sound of ghosts. It seemed that at this moment, the quiet and peaceful Chu clan courtyard had become hell. This Yuan Shutu wasn't very old, but he already had the cultivation of a martial saint. Chu Yang sat upright and didn't move. He just looked at Yuan Shutu with a cold smile and shouted. At the same time, 3 bright saber lights suddenly flash. The 3 sabersmen slashed at Yuan Shutu without holding back. The cultivation of each of these 3 people was higher than Yuan Shutu. At this moment, they joined hands and attacked together in a hurry. It was even more like lightning and thunder. At this moment, a white figure came in like lightning. It was Yun Tian. He had been anxious all the way. He had already used his fastest speed to rush here, but he was still 1 step behind. The situation had reached an irreconcilable point. "Please show mercy." Yun Tian turned pale with fright and cried out involuntarily. He didn't expect Chu Yang's trump card to be so sharp. It was sharp enough to kill Yuan Shutu with 1 strike. He originally thought that the best situation would be, Yuan Shutu was about to kill Chu Yang, so he saved him and built a good relationship with Chu Yang. Then, he could exchange for more resources. He didn't expect that the one who was in danger now was Yuan Shutu. Kill. Chu Yang ignored Yun Tian's arrival and dissuasion and ordered fiercely. Chu Yang's temper was like this. "As long as you touched my bottom line, I would kill you regardless of who you were or how powerful you were. Since they were destined to be enemies, there was no need to be polite. He would kill all of them." Such a temper was really too impulsive. He didn't consider the consequences. Since Chu Yang's rebirth, he had rarely been so impulsive. He hadn't been angry for a long time, but this time, Yuan Shutu insulted Tai Butian again and again. This completely touched Chu Yang's bottom line. Moreover, the sentence "the path of 3 lives can mend the sky" made Chu Yang extremely sensitive. If he didn't kill Yuan Shutu today, it was hard to say whether Tai Butian could avoid this tribulation. Since it was a matter of life and death for Tai Butian, even if there were 10 Yuan Shutu, he would kill them all. Even if he had to roam the world from now on, Chu Yang wanted to kill Yuan Shutu. A long roar. There was a burst of mist in the space. A black figure suddenly appeared and blocked in front of Yuan Shutu. It blocked the space between Yuan Shutu and Chu Yang. "Stop." A burst of lifeless black fog suddenly exploded. At this moment, 3 bright saber lights slashed into the black fog at the same time. In the black fog, the person who came later snorted angrily, so ruthless. Subsequently, 3 metallic clanging sounds were heard. Lightning Snake and the others tumbled back. They stood still and stared at the black fog. P.S. I will continue to write the 4th update. Please vote. Chapter 1883. The black fog let out a muffled groan, followed by a low scream. Then, it dissipated, revealing an old man in black and Yuan Shitu. There were 3 wounds on Yuan Shitu's body that were bleeding profusely. Although the saber didn't really cut him, the old man was still a little slower. The 3 saber energies had already severely injured Yuan Shitu. The 3 wounds exposed his internal organs. It could be clearly seen that Yuan Shitu's internal organs were already broken. With such injuries, he would definitely die. Bang! A small puppet that looked like a purple jade in front of Yuan Shitu's chest suddenly shattered. It fell to the ground and turned into powder. From the powder, a ray of black light shot up into the sky. Yuan Shitu, who had been unconscious and on the verge of death, was no longer bleeding from his wounds. Even his pale face was gradually returning to normal. It's a substitute puppet. Lightning Snake's pupils shrank. Yun Tian also showed a surprised expression. He didn't expect that the 3 Sabermen's joint attack could actually kill Yuan Shitu once. A substitute puppet, as the name suggested, was a heaven-defying treasure that could block a fatal injury for its master. A substitute puppet wouldn't be activated for a normal injury that wouldn't endanger one's life. Once the substitute puppet was activated, it meant that Yuan Shitu had already died once. Therefore, the substitute puppet would be activated and die for him. This was the most important function of a substitute puppet. This function was really heaven-defying. The old man who came later was trembling all over. His face turned green and white. He had already blocked the 3 saber men, but he still couldn't block the saber energy that was full of death. This was already a great dereliction of duty. Little, you're so vicious. How dare you? The old man turned to look at Chu Yang, his eyes gloomy. It seemed that he was about to launch a desperate counterattack. Chu Yang stood up calmly. He didn't even look at Yuan Shitu and ignored the old man. He said to Yun Tian casually, "Brother Yun, you came at the right time. Tomorrow night, Heavenly Armament Pavilion will hold the second auction. There are priceless treasures, legendary weapons, and medicine that can bring the dead back to life. There are also some super treasures that you can't imagine. Please help me inform the sects." Yun Tian and the old man were startled. The old man was about to attack, but he stopped. Chu Yang said lightly, "But Brother Yun, please inform the sects that Mo Yun Tian won't be part of this auction. If Mo Yun Tian appears in the auction, this auction will be cancelled immediately." This. Yun Tian was startled. "Brother Chu, this matter, please think more about it." "There's no need to think." Chu Yang's eyes emitted an ice-cold light as he said coldly, "In addition, if Brother Yun's message can't be conveyed, I'll inform you." Then, Extreme Heavens qualification will also be cancelled. This cancellation is by a long time. Brother Yun, do you hear me? Yun Tian was stunned for a moment before he smiled bitterly. "Brother Chu, I'm afraid you've misunderstood me. Today's events are by unexpected. His lackey was also extremely shocked and hurried over to stop him. I was still a step too late. This was beyond my expectations. Everything." Chu Yang smiled faintly and interrupted Yun Tian's explanation. His voice was even more elegant as he said in a clear voice, "Brother Yun, the word idiot isn't carved on my forehead, and neither is the word idiot on your forehead. You and I are both well aware of what happened today. However, now is not the time for us to shed all pretense of cordiality. So, if Brother Yun is smart enough, you should be more honest. Why waste those unnecessary spittle?" Yun Tian's face showed a hint of anger. Then, he shook his head and smiled bitterly. He naturally knew what Chu Yang meant. "I even dared to kill Yuan Shitu. Then, do you think I don't dare to kill Yun Tian? Since I've already been impulsive once, what's the harm in being impulsive a second time?" This sentence was obviously warning Yun Tian, if you want to behave atrociously, I'll keep you company. I'll keep you company till the end. After that, Chu Yang smiled faintly. He turned his head to look at Yuan Shitu, who was still in a state of shock. He chuckled softly and slowly raised his hand. He stretched out his index finger and pointed it at Yuan Shitu's forehead. He said clearly, if you don't die today, your ancestors' graves will be smoking. Yuan Shitu, I'll kill you with my own hands in the future. Chu Yang's tone was cold. His eyes flashed with crazy killing intent. His gaze was like lightning. Yuan Shitu's current cultivation was undoubtedly much higher than Chu Yang's. But at this moment, he didn't dare to look into Chu Yang's eyes. He was intimidated by Chu Yang's aura and could only turn his head to avoid the sharp edge. But when he realized that he was showing weakness, he hurriedly turned around and wanted to retort. However, he heard Chu Yang's sneer. The black-robed elder said angrily, "Little one, you're so vicious and rampant. Our ghost hunter will never let you go." Chu Yang turned around slowly and looked at him indifferently. He sneered and said, "Now, I'll say it in front of you. Your ghost hunter is just a fart in front of me. Do you dare to kill me? Do you dare to touch me?" The elder gritted his teeth, but he really didn't dare to move. Although Chu Yang almost killed Yuan Shitu just now, although Chu Yang clearly said that Mo Yuntian couldn't participate in the auction because of obvious discrimination and humiliation, he really didn't dare to move now. Because this auction was what all the super sects were looking forward to, they wouldn't allow anyone to spoil it. If he killed Chu Yang now, he would probably be besieged by all the big sect. Moreover, he would have to face the full force of the Eastern Royal Heavens official forces. If it really reached that stage, the people from the Ghost Hunter would probably be wiped out here. He couldn't bear such a serious consequence no matter what. Therefore, he was so angry that he was about to explode, but he couldn't move at all. He didn't dare to move at all. Then, Chu Yang looked up and laughed coldly. He turned around and strode away without any hesitation. A cold voice sounded and 2 words fell like ice beads, "See the guests out." Then, the 3 great swordsmen snorted and put their swords back into their sheaths. They looked at the 3 people coldly and left without saying a word. "He's too much." The elder who came later was furious. "He doesn't put our ghost hunter in his eyes at all." Yun Tian looked at him with pity and said indifferently, "He doesn't even put our Sky Sword Alliance in his eyes, let alone your ghost hunter. What qualifications do you have for him to put you in his eyes?" The elder said angrily, "Are we just going to let this matter go like this?" Yun Tian said indifferently, "Unless you can represent your ghost hunter. Moreover, you have to bear the risk of going against the other 8 heavens. Otherwise, before the auction ends, no one will allow anything to happen to Chu Yang. If you don't want to let it go like this, we can only let it go like this. Can you? Do you dare? Therefore, everything will have to wait until the auction ends." Yun Tian turned around and left. "Remember, during this period, if you dare to cause trouble again, our extreme heavens will be the first to kill you." Today's matter was very different from his original plan. But Yun Tian could only let it go. Although there was a suspicion of him changing his orders. It was inevitable that his credibility wasn't good, but for the long-term plan of thousands of years, Yun Tian knew better than anyone how to choose. "Yun Tian, wait a minute." Yuan Shitu finally caught his breath. Yun Tian turned around slowly. "What's the matter?" Yuan Shitu stared at him. "This Chu Yang, I'm afraid he's not just a simple shopkeeper of an auction house, right?" He finally felt that something wasn't right. Yun Tian laughed and shook his head. "Does Brother Yuan think that Chu Yang is still the son of the great celestial emperor? Brother Yuan should have investigated Chu Yang's news clearly. Otherwise, I'm afraid you wouldn't have come today, right? Information is information." Yuan Shitu's eyes flickered with black light, somewhat ferocious. "Yun Tian, you've dug a hole for me. A small shopkeeper of an auction house. He definitely wouldn't have 3 great celestial being experts protecting him, not to mention in such a remote place like Xixia City." The moment the 3 great swordsmen appeared, Yuan Shitu understood immediately. Yuan Shitu instantly understood, but it was already too late. The hatred was already irreconcilable. He thought he could negotiate with such a small person like Chu Yang. He had already given him enough face. As for the woman, wasn't she still a plaything? Handing over a plaything could curry favor with him, who was a super important person to Chu Yang, why not? So, Yuan Shitu didn't have any scruples from the beginning. But he never thought that he would punch an iron plate full of barbs. If someone said that Yun Tian had never schemed against him, Yuan Shitu wouldn't believe it even if he died. Moreover, Yun Tian's attitude had taken a 180-degree turn. This made Yuan Shitu even more convinced that he had been cheated by Yun Tian. Dug a hole for you. Yun Tian smiled faintly. Are you worthy? He turned and left. His clothes fluttered and he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Yun Tian, I'll remember you. From now on, you and I are irreconcilable. I, Yuan Shitu, will definitely repay you generously for today's matter. Yuan Shitu gritted his teeth. I'll wait for you. Yun Tian's voice floated over. From this moment on, the two young leaders completely broke off their relationship. Both of them knew that after this matter, the two super sects of heaven and earth would no longer have the chance to befriend. I'm afraid this Chu Yang isn't very simple. The black-robed elder sighed. Could Chu Yang be a great celestial emperor? This sentence was originally said by Yun Tian. Yuan Shitu repeated it at this moment, filled with a kind of ruthlessness. No matter who he is, after the soul-suppressing stone incident is over, I'll take Chu Yang alive on the road. I want to play with his wife in front of him. Play with him for a generation. Let him see for a generation. Yuan Shitu's anger soared to the sky. He turned his anger into endless imagination, fantasizing about how to deal with Chu Yang and everything related to Chu Yang. Chu Yang's anger also soared to the heavens. This time, he was really angry. Although he knew that the two super sects of heaven and earth were definitely not people he could afford to offend, and he also knew that the so-called mysterious expert entrusted the auction could only protect him for a while, Chu Yang couldn't care so much now. P.S. Today is the birthday of this group of Once Upon a Vast Sea little sisters. Vast Sea is a very cute little girl. I hope everyone can wish her a happy birthday. Happiness will follow you forever. Every year, there will be a day like this. Chapter 1884. Counter soldiers with arms, water with an earth weir. Even if he couldn't block it, everyone would die together. If he died, he would die. If he died, his bird would face the sky. As a man, he could die, but he absolutely could not accept such humiliation. Chu Yang turned around and left angrily. Lightning Snake and the other two followed closely behind. Looking at Chu Yang's back view, the three of them were full of admiration for this master. Too impressive. Too awesome. The other party is an SHME character, GAOWW. Leguodo. Novel chapter updates the fastest. BR that was the leader of the young generation of a big world, and he was the first successor of a super sect. Such a super sect, just casually taking out any one of them could make the world tremble. However, Chu Yang had beaten them up, scolded them, and killed them. He had done it cleanly and without the slightest bit of sloppiness. He scolded them, and they didn't dare to make a move. He bullied them, and they couldn't say anything. This was really too impressive. Especially, even a peerless expert at the peak of heavenly being level would have to consider the consequences of doing so. However, Chu Yang seemed to have just reached the heaven level. He was still a very, very small ant. Yet, he dared to do so. This really required a lot of courage and courage. If not, why would the descendant of that senior's senior have the demeanor of an expert, and the bearing of an expert? With this thought, the negative emotions of the enmity between ZJ and the two young leaders of heaven and earth immediately dissipated a lot, and a bit of complacent joy appeared in his heart. Chu Yang turned around and saw the three people's faces full of admiration. He couldn't help but ask curiously, "What's wrong with the three of you? You're really too handsome." Lightning Frenzied Blade gave him a thumbs up. Too handsome? What do you mean? Chu Yang couldn't understand this evaluation. Although young Master Chu never doubted ZJ's appearance, he still couldn't accept being praised as handsome by a few old men. The other party is the young leader of Mo Yun Tian. You're just being sarcastic. You scolded him, and even gave the order to kill him. Aren't you handsome enough? Lightning Snake was also a bit agitated. Scolding him felt good. Killing him felt good. Killing him felt good. Especially when he left with a flick of his sleeves. He was really too handsome. It's definitely too cool. Too arrogant. Too domineering. Too awesome. You're too arrogant. No hero in the world dares. Da Ling Dao gave a thumbs up. But we like this kind of style. Following you is very exciting. Very exciting. Chu Yang frowned. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That series of actions just now was actually a brainwave. Even though Chu Yang is a little regretful, he is not completely unafraid. This was one of the drawbacks of having insufficient strength. However, he had never expected that his actions would receive such high praise from the three of them. What kind of situation was this? This wasn't very logical, was it? Yuren realized something. As a leader, you must show your dominance. Be domineering. Back then, it was the same in the Iron Cloud Empire and Heaven Mending Pavilion. Today, at this moment, it was the same. Especially when facing an enemy. Even if you know you can't win, you can't show weakness because everyone below is watching you. If you're weak, everyone will be disheartened. If you're strong, everyone will be howling. As the saying goes, if a soldier is strong, a general will be strong. The general is the soldier's courage. This is the logic. Chu Yang was silent for a while. Then, he said, this time, we are strong, mighty, and domineering. However, the future will be very difficult. Everyone must be prepared. If it doesn't work out, we'll keep these people in Eastern Royal Heavens forever. When he said the last few words, Chu Yang's eyes shot out undisguised killing intent. The three sabers were shocked at the same time. Oh my God, this guy is too daring. Does he even have a limit to his courage? Keep these people in Eastern Royal Heavens forever. This is equivalent to directly destroying the elite forces sent by at least 5 super sects in 2 big worlds. Not to mention how terrible the revenge will be after they are destroyed. With their current strength, how can they completely destroy them? It's already good enough that they don't come to destroy you. This statement is domineering enough, but it seems to lack the ability to implement it. That senior had said that young Master Chu didn't know about his existence. Then why was young Master Chu so confident? Where does his confidence come from? But looking at this master, he doesn't seem like a fool talking nonsense. Could it be that he still has something to rely on to prevent us from doing so? Chu Yang looked at the 3 people with clear eyes and revealed a faint smile. Just now, that Yuan Shitu died, right? At least he died once, right? Lightning Snake nodded honestly. That's right. We were fully prepared and attacked with all our might. Although the blade was blocked, the saber energy was still a step ahead. Yuan Shitu was still alive and could kill him. If not for the substitute puppet, Yuan Shitu would have died. He would have died 3 times. Any one of those 3 saber energies could have taken his life. Do they know you? Chu Yang asked. Maybe they didn't before, but now they are sure who we are. Thunder Wild Blade couldn't help but sigh. Lightning Snake and Giant Spirit Blade looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. This time, they had really boarded a pirate ship. The other party might not dare to touch Chu Yang for the time being, but that didn't mean that they wouldn't dare to touch the 3 people. Previously, when they joined forces to kill Yuan Shitu, although Yuan Shitu didn't die in the end, it was still equivalent to dying once. Therefore, this was already a life and death feud. There was no turning back. Oh my God. The 3 of them lamented in their hearts. Our original intention was only to protect the descendant of that senior. We thought that this job would be easy, simple, and easy. With our strength, we could easily do it. Who would have thought that this little guy would be so fierce? He was so ruthless. He didn't make a sound, but when he made a move, he shocked the heavens. The first time he made a move, he offended the 2 big world. Who knows what will happen in the future? Save me. To be honest, I also have no way out. Chu Yang turned around with his hands behind his back. He said lightly, since there is no way out, we can only work hard to move forward. If we can get out, it will be a vast world. If we can't, Ha 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 ha. Chu Yang's figure disappeared around the corner. The three people were dumbfounded and looked at each other. Although Chu Yang didn't say it very badly, he pointed out the current situation of the three people vaguely. Moreover, this was equivalent to giving them a warning. Now, you guys have a way out. You can only follow me and do it. You can still have a life-saving talisman with me. At least you can be safe for the time being. If you go out alone, you will definitely die. Now that things have come to this, they will definitely not let you go. Also, I know that you guys were planning to kill me in the first place. But no matter what, now that the situation has changed, your original wishful thinking is definitely not going to work now. As for where to go, ZJ had to consider. Do we do it or not? Lightning Snake's eyes were gloomy. He glanced at the two people. Do you dare? Thunder Wildblade's face was heavy. One said to do it or not. The other said to do it or not. Giant Spirit Blade said, do it. What can we do? What can we do if we don't do it? The two people were silent at the same time. If we don't do it, we can leave immediately. Their original intention is only to fight for the soul-suppressing stone. They won't stay to seek revenge on us, as long as they hide well enough. We can get rid of this super trouble, although there are risks. But we won't feel sad. Zhuling Dao didn't even wait for the two of them to answer. He continued to answer his own question. However, if we do that, we're basically finished. Our future is bleak. Also, escaping this time will leave behind an inner demon in our hearts. No matter what, we will always be afraid of escaping once. With such a gap in our hearts, the matter of challenging the limitless invincible blade in the future can only be buried deep in our hearts forever. Because you have the qualifications. In other words, if we escape, as long as we are lucky enough not to be caught, and we are more careful in the future, it will be easy for us to survive with our skills. We can probably live comfortably for a few thousand years. This is what we don't do. Lightning Snake's gloomy face showed a hint of excitement. His eyes were burning, and his voice was even a little hoarse. But what if we do it? Do it, it's even simpler. Giant Spirit Blade said lightly. Do it, the disadvantages are obvious. Maybe tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, you and I will be dead on the streets, and even our bones will not be left. Maybe we will still have to run for our lives together and live a precarious life. Because, we still don't know who the backer of this Villa Master Chu is. What kind of strength does he have? Can he really resist the high-level experts of the two big heavens and earth? All of this can only be a gamble. The probability of losing the gamble is more than 80%. At least 80%. Giant Spirit Blade said heavily. What if we win the gamble? Lightning Snake asked. If we win the gamble in the end, and our side wins, and we are lucky enough to keep our lives. As the first group, we will be completely rich. At that time, after so many cruel battles, even our biggest wish will be achieved. Giant Spirit Blade said slowly. Biggest wish. The other two's eyes suddenly lit up. The three's biggest wish was undoubtedly to defeat limitless invincible blade. Do you want to bet? Do you want to do it? The three's gazes intertwined. They saw the madness and passion in each other's eyes. I'll bet. Thunder Frenzied Blade said in a low voice, this is a huge risk, but it's also an unprecedented opportunity. However, what kind of fucking opportunity is completely free of risk? How can such a good thing happen to us? Lightning Snake nodded slowly. That's right. In the martial world, it's either kill or be killed. There's no need to think too much about it. Being killed many years later, or being killed now, won't it still be a corpse on the streets? Even if we are killed tomorrow or the day after, I'm afraid our hearts will be more comfortable, and we can avoid that cowardly heart demon. We even have a chance to achieve our goal. We only have so much to bet, but we can participate in this huge gamble. With such a good opportunity, why not take it? Chapter 1885. Giant Spirit Saber sighed regretfully. Alas, I wanted to participate in this gamble alone. Lightning Snake and Thunder Wild Saber laughed at the same time. You wish. You want to take all the benefits for yourself. In that case, we need to strengthen our previous arrangements. Thunder Wild Saber, get your people here as soon as possible. Lightning Snake said, we'll go to the Manor Master now and explain this point. The Manor Master is a sensitive person. The best way to get along is to make sure that there are no grudges between us. In fact, there's something strange. I don't know if you've noticed it. Giant Spirit Saber frowned and said, although our Manor Master has caused such a big trouble, he doesn't seem to be in a hurry. This is a bit strange. Speaking of this, the two of them immediately frowned and were greatly puzzled by this. If an ordinary person encountered such a thing, even if they were safe for the time being, they would still be at a loss. But Chu Yang's reaction seemed to be that he had a well-thought-out plan. He didn't care about the current crisis at all. Speaking of strange, our housekeeper also seems to be very strange. Giant Spirit Saber said, I believe you've also noticed it. That person must be a saber practitioner. Although his strength is not as strong as yours and mine, he is definitely not weak. At least, he has the strength of an elementary saint. He clearly had serious internal injuries before, but now, he has recovered. Yes, it's really so. The two also thought of it at the same time. Their eyes couldn't help but become brighter. At the same time, they thought of the magical elixir that could heal injuries in an instant. Let's bet. The three walked into Chu Yang's study at the same time. How can you be so impulsive today? Shuezian looked at Chu Yang in disbelief. This guy actually almost killed the #1 genius of the ghost region in his own home. If it weren't for the substitute puppet, or even Yuan Shitu would have died. When she first heard this news, Shuezian almost couldn't believe her ears. On the other side, Hai Lianbo also shook his head. The two of them rushed here not long after the incident happened. At first, they still had a dubious attitude. But when they arrived, they knew that this matter had subverted human cognition. It actually happened. Chu Yang smiled faintly and calmly. He asked the two to sit down. This matter is really unbelievable. It seems that even I feel it is unbelievable. But if I was given another chance, I would still kill him. Regrettably, I didn't know that he had a substitute puppet. If I had known, I would have arranged for my subordinates to launch a wave attack. The substitute puppet can withstand one attack, but I don't know how many times it can withstand. What? Are you still planning to kill Yuan Shitu? Kill him again? Shuezian was puzzled. How could I consider letting him go? If a man can't even protect his own woman, then, even if he was still alive, it was not as respectable as a corpse. Yuan Shu and I are destined to be irreconcilable. His death is better than mine, Chu Yang said indifferently. As a woman, when Shuezian heard this, she couldn't help but admire him greatly. He didn't find Chu Yang as an eyesore as before. For the sake of his woman. To be able to do this, his character couldn't be too bad. Hai Xiaobo frowned and said, speaking of which, he just wants to see your wife. Aren't you overthinking things? If taking a step back can lead to a better future, why not take a step back? Let's not talk about whether he is a stranger or an enemy, whether his request to see my wife is reasonable or appropriate. Let me ask you, if he says he wants to see my wife, I don't dare to offend him, so I let him see her. But what happens after he asks to see my wife? Chu Yang smiled and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a mocking expression. This. After. Hai Xiaobo was speechless for a moment. He was also a man, so he could imagine what might happen in the future, or what would definitely happen in the future. After he asks to see her, if he feels good and asks for more, what should I do? Chu Yang smiled sarcastically. Sometimes, you can't take a step back in life. Taking a step back is equivalent to retreating completely. Taking a step back may not lead to a better future, but a bottomless abyss. Old Hai, I believe that you can understand what I'm saying. I'm a man, and you're also a man. Chu Yang smiled, but his smile was as cold as ice and as bleak as the cold wind. In addition, Old Hai, don't tell me that you don't know what kind of martial technique this Yuan Shu cultivates. With this kind of martial technique, he wants to see his wife for the first time? What kind of thoughts does he have? Chu Yang smiled and said, Elder Hai is a broad-minded man, and you believe in a better future. You may agree to this request, But I have to kill him. I may not agree to it. I agree to it. If he dares to say anything to me, I'll cut him into pieces. Hai Xiaobo's face turned red. Only then did he remember. It was rumored that Yuan Shitu had the divine technique of seducing women, and he was the best at seducing women. Moreover, he also practiced the dual cultivation technique. The number of women destroyed in his hands was really innumerable. If I were to face this kind of person, I'd kill him immediately too. I wouldn't have so many scruples. Shuezian was filled with righteous indignation. Chu Yang smiled. He didn't comment on Shuezian's words. Killing depended on the person. Chu Yang dared to kill, but Shuezian might not really dare to. Because Chu Yang had the final say here, but Shuezian couldn't. She had too many scruples. Therefore, Chu Yang didn't expect these two to be of much help to him today. Seniors, you don't come here without a reason, right? I believe you didn't come here today just to ask about my safety, right? Chu Yang smiled slightly. Haha, the main purpose of our visit is naturally to ask about Villa Master Chu's safety. Seeing that Villa Master Chu is fine, we're finally relieved. Shuezian was a little embarrassed, and said, other than that, we have two other small matters to discuss with Villa Master. Thank you for your concern. What are the details of those two small matters? Please tell me. Chu Yang smiled faintly. He still had to say what needed to be said face to face. These two were still allies for the time being. Chu Yang was very clear about the purpose of these two people's visit. First of all, although Villa Master Chu is still able to use the identity of the hidden expert to suppress them, but after all, you have already formed a death grudge with the demon ghost. As a result, you can imagine the dangers lurking everywhere in the Chu family. In this case, Villa Master Chu is naturally not afraid, but those children are unable to cope with this sudden change. Speaking of which, they are now the disciples of our two sects. If they stay here and let Villa Master Chu take care of them, it would be inappropriate. Villa Master Chu, what do you think? Shuezian said gently. Shuezian's tone was gentle, and her words were full of consideration for Chu Yang. But the three people present all understood the meaning in her word. What Shuezian said is reasonable. Right now, we do have this concern. Chu Yang nodded. So we plan to take them all back to the sect. Shuezian said straightforwardly. Chu Yang sneered in his heart. Sure enough, no matter how beautiful their words were, they still wouldn't help. Moreover, they also thought that it was unwise to offend the two big sects because of him. Taking the children away was both a goal and a pretense. Firstly, they would no longer be restrained by him. Secondly, they would also express their attitude. We won't help you, so don't come to us for help if you encounter any difficulties. What we did before was just a fair trade, nothing more. Even if something were to happen to you, we would only look on with folded arms and would absolutely not lend you any assistance. At this moment, Chu Yang vaguely understood the helplessness of the Purple Cloud Heavenly Emperor back then. The forces within the Eastern Royal Heavens were already indifferent, let alone the Purple Cloud Heavens, which was even further away. No problem. Chu Yang nodded readily. Don't worry, I will hand everyone over to you later. Fairness is the most important thing in a trade. Since the trade has been established, the children will naturally be taken away by the two of you. Secondly, there is the auction tomorrow night. Shuezian took a deep breath, her face a little red. Although he didn't say it explicitly, everyone was smart enough to understand what he meant. It didn't seem appropriate for him to make a request right after. However, it wasn't the time to worry about this. Perhaps, in another 2 days, the Chu clan would no longer exist in this world. We want to know what exactly will appear in the auction this time? Shuezian asked. I definitely can't tell you this now. I believe that Shuezian and Elder Hai can understand my difficulties, but I can reveal one thing, and that is, the auction items this time will definitely be more outstanding than the ones last time. Chu Yang smiled meaningfully. Also, I heard from that elder that after this auction, there may be follow-up actions. If you can wait. Haha, Shuezian heaved a sigh of relief and said, that's good, we will look forward to it. The auction house has its own rules, we have indeed overstepped just now. Hai Mingbo didn't speak all this time, and he looked a little embarrassed, as if he was guilty. This afternoon, you can come and take them away. Chu Yang's expression was serious, with a hint of cynicism. Okay. The two of them agreed happily. In the warehouse, Chu Yang Saturday. Beside him were the 300 children who were about to leave. They were the ones who promised Ling Xiao faction and dreamlike world pavilion. Brothers and sisters, I found a way out for everyone. Chu Yang said straightforwardly, currently, our Chu clan courtyard is in a precarious situation, so I must send you all out first. First, to ensure your safety, and second, to have something to look forward to. The children's breathing became tense at the same time, and they looked at him without blinking. I believe that all of you may have sensed that a lot of changes have happened in our clan these past few days. They are all looking for trouble with us. Chu Yang sighed deeply. To be honest, I also want to accompany all of you to live a good life. But, we don't have enough strength. So, we can only be bullied by others. If you stay, you will only be bullied and die with me. It won't help. Chapter 1886. That's why I want to send you out to learn some skills. Only when you've learned enough skills and have enough power can you deal with all kinds of changes. Originally from P, when you leave, everyone should take some purple cloud coins with you. When you're outside, don't mistreat yourself. Money is just a worldly possession. Spend it when you need it. Don't be reluctant. Chu Yang slowly stood up. Maybe when you're strong enough, you won't be able to see our Chu clan compound anymore. Or maybe, at that time, we'll still be waiting for you to protect us. But in this world, you have to remember one thing. Survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest. Chu Yang said softly, in the afternoon, someone will come to take you away. I hope that no matter where you go, you won't forget our Chu clan compound and the brothers and sisters here. I hope that when everyone is strong enough, we'll beat up whoever wants to bully us. Chu Yang looked up and sighed. The feeling of being bullied is not good. Without looking back, Chu Yang walked out with a lonely back. The warehouse was silent. All the children's eyes were shining with tears. Are we leaving? Are we really leaving? We really don't want to. It's only been a few days, and there are already hateful people bullying us and not letting us live well. Those people all deserve to die. If I come back with some skills, whoever dares to bully our Chu clan compound, I'll kill their entire family. No one will be left alive. A child suddenly stood up with tears streaming down his face. Whoever dares to bully us, I'll kill their entire family. No one will be left alive. More than 300 children shouted themselves hoarse. Then, they hugged each other and cried bitterly. It's not that brother Chu Yang doesn't want us, but he can't even protect himself now. This is understandable to these children, who have seen too much of the world before their time, but in such a bad case as this. Brother Chu Yang still chose to send us out and protect us. He even gave us a place to live and learn skills. We have a tomorrow and a future. Xie Danqiong's wife, Madame Mai, had tears in her eyes. Her lips trembled as she said, "Children, you have to remember this family, remember us, you'll be gone for a long time. I don't know when you'll come back. But I'm sure that when you come back, you'll have all grown up. I'm no longer what I am now. So, don't forget to take good care of your heavenly soldier plate. This will be an important basis for us to recognize each other in the future, as long as this plate is still there. Regardless of whether we are here or not, you are still a heavenly soldier of our heavenly armament pavilion. You are still a part of our Chu family's courtyard." Madame Mai said. Tears fell like rain. Below, only cries could be heard. Every child was holding the heavenly soldier medallion hanging around their necks. She cried her eyes out. In the future, perhaps this would be his spiritual support, his only consolation. At this moment, all the children made a wish in this life. No matter when and where, they would keep this comfort forever. They could give up everything else, but not this comfort. That afternoon, when Shuezian and Hai Mingbo came over, they saw 215 children whose eyes were like rabbit eyes from crying. Her face was completely red. They were all reluctant to part with Shuezian and the others. Their gazes were filled with hatred. How could he go back like this? Wouldn't it be like having 215 enemies? Moreover, they would all be geniuses with top-notch aptitude. Children. Xuezian cleared her throat and said, "Now, your brother Chu is facing an unprecedented crisis. He doesn't have the ability to protect you for the time being. He can't even guarantee his own safety. So, he has entrusted you to us. He hopes that we will take you away first, protect you, and let you grow up safely." As Xuezian spoke, she felt a toothache. What was this? How was this entrusting them to us? Clearly, we paid a huge price in exchange for these disciples. To put it bluntly, we spent an astronomical amount of wealth to buy them. Even thinking about it now made her heart ache, but these words had to be said according to Chu Yang's instructions. "If you don't say this, I'm really afraid that there will be huge trouble after you bring them back." Combined with the situation of these 2 days, Xuezian had to admit that these children had a strong sense of identity with the Chu family's courtyard. Every one of them was a part of this big family. It was indeed very difficult to take them away. If they really said that they were actually brought back, they would probably explode on the spot. Once there was resistance in their hearts, then the difficulty of nurturing them would undoubtedly increase exponentially. If they didn't cooperate at all, how could you nurture them? So, although they knew that saying this would actually be a great help to Chu Yang, Xuezian and Hai Lianbo had no choice but to accept their fate and do as they were told. At the same time, the two felt a little funny in their hearts. Even if we let you take advantage of them for a while, do you really expect these children to remember you forever? Such a young child, as long as he arrived at the mountain gate, once he blended in with the colorful life, he would completely forget about you in less than 3 months. On the path of cultivation, time is the easiest. In the blink of an eye, 30 to 50 years, or even 100 years, would pass. When these children have really matured, how would they still remember who Chu Yang was? It wasn't necessarily a bad thing to endure and cooperate now. But a little girl opened her big watery eyes and said angrily, "Aren't you very capable? Can't you help us? As long as you help us kill brother Chu Yang's enemies, can't we continue to stay?" As the little girl spoke, she was sobbing and crying, and she was angry. "Yes, why don't you help us? Why are you so cruel?" Many children's eyes lit up, and they questioned one another. Xuezian staggered. Children's words carry no harm, but these words were too out of line, right? We have done so much, and paid such a huge price, just to take you away. Now, you actually want us to help Chu Yang kill all his enemies, and then let you stay? We have paid everything, but in the end, we are empty-handed. That doesn't seem right, but it's not like we are empty-handed. Because helping Chu Yang is equivalent to opposing the Cloud Sky Realm and Yuanshu Realm. We have paid an astronomical amount of wealth, and we still have to help you deal with such a strong enemy. You have taken all the benefits, and you are also the good guy. How can there be such a logic in this world? You are not helping, and you are being cruel. Xuezian smiled amiably and said, "But, your brother Chu Yang's enemies are very strong, and we are no match for them. Even the road to bring you back is full of danger. Children, all hope is on you. As long as you work hard and learn well, you can come back to help your brother Chu Yang. So, work hard, children, but we are afraid that brother Chu Yang can't wait. There are so many bad people." A few of the little girls burst into tears. They wiped their tears and said, "What if I die like my mother? What should I do?" Xuezian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Your brother Chu Yang can definitely wait. It's just that this courtyard and this foundation are not easy to protect. Besides, if you stay, your brother Chu Yang will have a lot more to worry about. Not only can you not be of help, but you are also a burden. With more burdens, he will need to protect you. This will only put Chu Yang in more danger, right?" With that said, the little boys and girls slowly stopped their sorrowful cries and nodded their heads in grievance. In the crowd, a 13 or 14-year-old boy in white stepped out and said loudly, "Okay, we will go with you. But, before we leave, we have a request." "Yes, we have a request." The group of little guys shouted in unison. "What request?" "Just say it, as long as it is within our power, we will not refuse." Shuezian and Hai Mingbo smiled bitterly at each other, but they also felt relieved. It was finally coming to an end. This request is: we want to know who is bullying our Chu clan's courtyard. You should know this, right? This boy was obviously the leader of this group of children, and he spoke in an orderly manner. This was Chu Jinfeng. We want to know the name of every sect, and who is the main culprit who is bullying Brother Chu Yang. We want to know this. Right now, we don't have the ability, and we have caused Brother Chu Yang to be wronged. In the future, we will definitely take revenge 100-fold. The 215 children shouted in unison. Obviously, this group of little guys had rehearsed in advance. Kill them all. Chu Jinfeng raised his arms and roared. Kill them all. More than 200 children shouted together. Exterminate them. Chu Jinfeng raised his arms and roared again. Exterminate them. The 215 children shouted themselves hoarse. Take revenge. Chu Jinfeng led them again. Take revenge. The children shouted until their voices were almost hoarse. This kind of childish roar didn't have the slightest bit of cultivation, but it made Shuezian and Hai Mingbo break out in cold sweat, and they shivered. Terrifying. Too terrifying. If a person, a sect, or even an entire world were to be hated by these 215 super geniuses, then when these children were fully grown, even the Sky Sword Alliance would have a huge headache. The two looked at each other. While they were worried about the Demon Ghost and the Ultimate Heavenly Sword Alliance, they also felt a burst of joy. The power of revenge was incomparably strong, and with this motivation from the bottom of their hearts, the future was promising. With revenge as the motivation, this group of little guys would improve very quickly. This was already within their expectations. Chapter 1887. It's not that I can't tell you. Shuezian frowned and said earnestly, but the enemy is very strong. Before you have strong abilities, don't act rashly. The sky had already turned dark. Shuezian and Hai Pingo summoned all of the experts sent by their sects, and brought those 215 reluctant children out of Chu family's courtyard in single file. Every child had a large bag of luggage, and they couldn't bear to put any of it down. The two of them had no choice but to use quite a few spatial rings to put all these things in. Chu Yang gave each of the 200 children a spatial ring, but they couldn't open it because they didn't have any cultivation. Chu Yang, Tai Bu Tian, Madame Mai, Huyen Aobua, Greasy Cat and the others sent them off at the door. The moment the 215 children walked out of the door, someone shouted. The 215 children turned around at the same time and knelt down facing Chu Yang and the others at the door. It was too late to stop them. Bang! 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 3 neat kowtows were heard. As the children kowtowed, one of their hands clutched the heavenly soldier token on their chest tightly. Their expressions were very sincere. This scene shocked everyone present, whether it was the people from the Chu clan or the people from the 2 great sects. Shuezian and Hai Mingbo were shocked and opened their eyes wide. Chu Yang also felt that the rims of his eyes were suddenly hot, and tears were about to flow out. He subconsciously took a big step forward and said loudly, "Children, brothers, sisters, have a safe journey. You must take care. No one is allowed to cry. Children who walk out of here are not allowed to cry. You can bleed and sweat, but you are not allowed to cry." When these words came out, all the children who were sobbing stopped in unison. They suppressed their tears and stared at Chu Yang with their eyes wide open. They listened to Chu Yang's final warning. Perhaps, this would be the last time she would hear Big Brother Chu Yang's voice for a long time in the future. I must be obedient. I must be obedient. Remember, children who walk out of the Chu clan. He is stronger than any other player. Even the princes and princesses, geniuses and geniuses, can't compare to you. So, no one is allowed to lower their heads in the future. At any time, at any time. All of you, stick out your chest. I don't care what you think. Always remember. The children of the Chu clan are not allowed to kill each other. Chu Yang shouted, "Remember, you are all heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. We will wait for you to come back." Chu Yang shouted. He then waved his hand, "Let's go." He turned around and entered the door without looking back. Then, he chased the others inside. With a bang, the gate of the Chu clan's courtyard was tightly shut. The 215 children bit their lips tightly, forcibly holding back their tears. "I won't cry." Brother Chu Yang said that the child was from the Chu clan's courtyard. No one is allowed to cry. However, his eyes were already blurry, and he couldn't even see clearly. The door was tightly shut. The person who had brought the best to China had finally closed the door. "I will never forget this place, never. One day, I will come back. I will come back and open the gates of the Chu clan's courtyard to the entire world." All the children made a vow over and over again, a vow that they would have no regrets in this life. Under the repeated urging and consolation of Shuezian, Hai Mingbo, and the others, the children slowly stood up, stuck out their chests, raised their heads and strode out. Brother Chu Yang said that we are not inferior to anyone. We must stick out our chests and raise our heads, and not lower our heads to anyone. The group slowly walked away, but there were still children turning back to look at them from time to time. In the group, sobbing sounds could be heard, followed by a trembling voice scolding, "No crying." Brother Chu Yang said that we are not allowed to cry. The children from the Chu clan's courtyard can bleed and sweat, but we are not allowed to cry. All of you are not allowed to cry. When they reached the corner, all the children stopped in their tracks and turned back in unison, looking in the direction of the Chu clan's courtyard longingly. They stared deeply for a long time. The group finally turned the corner. Gradually, they walked further and further away. In the courtyard, Tai Butian bit her lips and took a deep breath, her eyes red. Xie Danfeng's eyes were filled with tears. Huyan Aobo clenched her fists tightly and stood upright, her eyes red. She murmured, "Good. Good children. Good job. Good children." Madame Mai's feelings were the most fragile, and her feelings for this group of children were also the deepest. She almost fainted from crying. She rubbed her eyes and murmured, "Cough cough. Why is the wind so strong? My eyes are filled with sand, this damn weather." Chu Yang stood in front of everyone with his hands behind his back, leaving only his back view to everyone. But at this moment, it seemed that this originally strong back view was actually so bleak. After a long time, Chu Yang didn't pay attention to anyone. He put his hands behind his back, straightened his back, and silently entered the study room. Then, he sat down on a chair. Humans were not plants, how could they be emotionless? Especially when these children were so sensible. If Chu Yang had great power now, not to mention using elixirs in exchange for these children, even if they used their entire sect in exchange, Chu Yang would definitely not be willing to let any of them go. But now, he had no choice. The situation was stronger than him, and he had no choice. Even if Chu Yang was given 1,000 times more elixirs and heavenly treasures, he would never be able to nurture every single one of these children into talent. Not to mention that the current situation was almost precarious. Disregarding everything else, if two saint-level experts didn't intentionally restrain themselves when they fought, just the remnant force of their energy would be enough to bury these 5,000 geniusi. I changed their physiques, but back then, I couldn't give them a future. If I forced them to stay, it would be harming them, right? Chu Yang sighed deeply. "I hope that all of you can thrive in your respective sect. All of you. All of you can become heroes of indomitable spirit." That night, outside Purple Cloud City, two large flying boats slowly rose into the air. He had 215 children with him. They flew to their respective sect. The seeds that Chu Yang had painstakingly nurtured finally began to bloom everywhere in this world. They spread out. A flying boat was a special long-distance transportation tool in the sky. This kind of flying tool was completely made of purple crystals, iron from outer space, and countless other rare materials. Each flying boat was equivalent to more than half of the wealth of a super sect like the Soaring Firmament sect. Other than having the ability to fly long distances, flying boats were also very destructive. Its lethality was also not to be underestimated. Even a saint-level super expert would not be able to destroy a flying boat by force. That's not going to happen either, unless it was a super expert who had reached the late stage of the peak of the saint level like Die Yi. Even a sect as strong as Dreamlike Veranda only had 3 flying boats. As for Lingxiao sect, they almost went bankrupt before they could barely build one. They even had to beg people everywhere for help. They owed countless favors. Such a flying boat only needed the power of a few thousand pieces of purple crystal jade essence as its starting power. Even the sect master of Dreamlike Veranda wouldn't easily use it if it was an important or urgent matter. But this time, both the Dreamlike Veranda and the Soaring Firmament sect sent out their flying boats at the same time. Seeing the flying boats of the 2 sects rise into the air, the other people from Ultimate Heaven, Mo Tian, Yun Tian, Kai Bei Tian, Fu Tu Tian, and other heavens all had solemn expression. Guessing what exactly happened that made the 2 sects send out flying boats together, Yun Tian frowned tightly. Taken away. But how many did they take away? Sending out such a big flying boat. Sigh. Countless sects. They all sent out the same order at the same time. Investigate. Investigate in detail. The flying boats were sent out for the sake of the saint level. This night, Chu Yang locked himself in the study and didn't come out for a long time. It was already late at night. There was a sudden knock on the door. Tai Butian pushed the door open and came in. Seeing Chu Yang's tired face, she couldn't help but sigh with heartache. She sat quietly with him. Tian Tian, don't you think I've gone overboard? Chu Yang took a deep breath. If I gave them to these sects for free, I might feel better. But I used them to exchange for a large amount of elixirs. This really makes me feel uncomfortable. Now that I think about it, I'm just like a human trafficker. Moreover, I trafficked people who trusted me. Am I very despicable? Tai Butian smiled. I know you're troubled by this problem. You look colder and more vicious than anyone else, but in fact, you're more loyal than anyone else. Chu Yang sighed. You forced them to stay, but can you give them a future? Can you nurture all of them into talents? Can you let them enjoy the unique cultivation conditions as they do in the super sects? Do you mean that there are innumerable cultivation manuals? You can't do any of these. As for the price you mentioned, this is something that should be done. Have you ever thought that if the big sects were to get so many geniuses so easily, would they cherish them? Everyone knows that they won't cherish things that they get easily. But after paying a huge price, they'll be treasured like pearls. From another perspective, you're fighting for their status and conditions in their sects in the future. I don't think there's any talent who would make a sect pay such a huge price, right? This is status. Tai Butian didn't give Chu Yang a chance to speak at all. She continued talking like a machine gun. Although her voice was gentle, she spoke very quickly. Of course, everyone will feel uncomfortable. I feel it too, and so do my siblings. In fact, it's even more so than you. But these are things that we have to bear. Joys and sorrows are the training of one's state of mind. Tai Butian smiled. If the super sects were on the mountain beside you, I'm afraid you wouldn't feel uncomfortable now. Instead, you would be very happy and delighted. But now that you're feeling down, it's because of the sorrow of separation. The sorrow of separation is always depressing. Chapter 1888. Tai Butian said softly, that's why it's not the same as the psychological pressure you're talking about. And this itself isn't a business at all. It's just a sad life. Chu Yang raised his head and smiled. Or maybe what you said makes sense. Tai Butian didn't wait for him to finish. She said coquettishly, of course what I said makes sense. Chu Yang chuckled and finally felt a lot more comfortable. He walked to the window and sighed. I hope that all of these children can be happy. There's a moon outside the window. The moon is full and round. Chu Yang murmured, is it the 15th again today? Tai Butian slowly came behind him and looked at the moon side by side. She said, what are you doing now, Yang? Are you thinking of me? Are you thinking of me? Chu Yang held her waist gently and the two of them stood side by side under the moon. But his thoughts had already flown thousands of miles away. It was the second half of the night. The wind was cold and the dew was heavy. Chu Yang was just about to go to bed with Tai Butian when a message was transmitted to his mind. It was from the sword spirit. The cold and death aura has completely dissipated. Under the soul-suppressing stone, you can enter at any time. This message made Chu Yang forget everything in front of him instantly. The divine source realm. Under the soul-suppressing stone, a super treasure. Enter. You rest first. I'm going out for a while. Chu Yang didn't wait for Tai Butian to reply. He went through the window and turned in the air. His expression changed and then he took another turn. He had already completely disappeared into the thick darkness of the night. He went around Purple Cloud City a few times and went through the tunnels to and fro the properties he bought. After confirming that no one was following him, Chu Yang floated toward the infinite boundless mountain like a wisp of smoke. Chu Yang used all his lightness techniques and approached the boundary of the infinite boundless mountain almost noiselessly. It was just that when he reached the foot of the mountain, even though he used all his strength, he was still almost discovered. This wasn't because Chu Yang's concealment techniques were bad. It was because he really had no other choice. There were too many people on the infinite boundless mountain. It was almost densely packed. Earth, heaven, saint. It was as if all the experts in the entire continent had gathered here. No matter how brilliant his concealment technique was, it was impossible for him to escape. However, in the current infinite boundless mountain, such a space was truly lacking. No. It couldn't even be described as lacking. You're the one who should be the one. Everyone is looking at their surroundings. Even the slightest movement will attract attention. Up there was the land of death. Although it was a land of death, there were also great benefits. Of course, I couldn't go up there. Don't even think about going up there. If I can't get it, don't even think about getting it. Everyone had the same thought. Thinking of this, infinite boundless mountain security measures were definitely comparable to the strictest heaven-encompassing EarthNet, perhaps even surpassing it. Chu Yang changed his mind and entered the tribulation space from the void. No matter how strict the observation was or how dense the crowd was, they were powerless against the tribulation space. With the help of this heaven-defying cheat, Chu Yang followed the sword spirit's call and gradually drifted toward the top of the mountain, ignoring all obstacles. Along the way, he heard people muttering non-stop. What's going on? Why did someone go over there? But there is no one there. I didn't even see a ghost. What's going on? My spiritual sense has always been sharp. What's going on today? Are you seeing things? You're not the only one who's panicking at the slightest sound and treating everyone as an enemy. I'm really here, but I don't see anything. You're here? You don't see anything? Crazy. Hey, there was some movement just now. What's going on? Damn, can you stop scaring people? It's already stressful enough to stand guard here, and you're still acting all flustered over there. I'm really here. This time, it's real. This time, it's real. The previous times were all fake. You fucking bird. If you're sick, go back and take your medicine. Scram. Chu Yang was very careful along the way. When he finally reached the top of the mountain, he heaved a sigh of relief. Every step he took along the way was really dangerous. Many experts with sharp senses had really noticed the abnormal fluctuations in the air. Although it was more daunting than dangerous in the end, Chu Yang thought to himself, this kind of method might not be omnipotent. Entering the tribulation space did not mean that he could avoid everything. If there was really a top expert, he could still detect it. It didn't even need to be a top expert. As long as one's spiritual sense was outstanding, they would be able to sense it if they came into contact with the moving tribulation space. The stronger one's spiritual sense was, the stronger the sense would be. If it was a peerless expert, the moment they sensed that something was wrong, they could use a powerful attack to break through space. It would not be a problem for them to break through space. The tribulation space's function was undoubtedly heaven-defying, but it was still a special space. When facing a top expert, it still had its limits. He had to use this function carefully in the future. At the very least, I should try not to use it before my strength reaches the heavenly human level. Chu Yang let out a deep breath. Once he reached the heavenly human level, the tribulation space would also level up. At that time, there should be no problem. Right now, the tribulation space could be hidden from a saint or heavenly human level, the sword spirit sensed the arrival of the tribulation space. His original spirit floated out silently and entered the tribulation space to meet up with Chu Yang. At this time, the tribulation space was in the middle of the night. What's the situation inside now? Are you sure there's no danger? Chu Yang asked hurriedly. You can enter now, but... The sword spirit's voice was a little excited and a little stunned. There's still a great danger inside, and the chances of encountering it are very high. The tribulation divine spirit has been appearing all this time. This is a little abnormal. Very high. How high is the chance? Success, 70% or 80%? Chu Yang asked. A conservative estimate is about success, the sword spirit said. Success? A conservative estimate is success. What if it's not a conservative estimate? Chu Yang asked in surprise. If it's not a conservative estimate, the chances of encountering danger are success, the sword spirit said with a trembling voice. The tribulation divine spirit was the nemesis of the sword spirit. The sword spirit was under a lot of pressure. I'll go. Why don't you just say that we'll definitely encounter danger after entering? Chu Yang was amused by the sword spirit's words. Swordmaster, there's really a great risk inside. There's a need for you to enter. I really don't recommend you to enter, the sword spirit said in a deep voice. A great risk. Chu Yang took a deep breath. His eyes flashed with a strong light. He said decisively, go in. Chu Yang didn't expect that he would have the chance to enter first in such a good situation. If he went in, wouldn't he be able to take whatever he wanted? He would only give it to others when he couldn't take it anymore. Such a good thing. How could he let it go? Any good thing was naturally accompanied by risks. Wealth came from danger. This was a wise saying. When there's a crisis, there's a turning point. Are we really going in? The sword spirit asked with uncertainty. If the tribulation divine spirit really exists, then the chances of us escaping unscathed after entering are less than 1 in 10,000. 1 in 10,000. Isn't there still 1 in 10,000 miles? In this world. Are there any risks that can be completely avoided? Chu Yang said lightly, since you want to achieve something, there are some risks that you have to bear. Since I started my career, when have I ever had to take on a great risk? At the very most, I would lose my life. Are there any greater risks? If it were any other world, Chu Yang would definitely hesitate. But now, he was facing the pressure of 2 worlds. Chu Yang, you've chosen another path. Even though it was risky, but this was a great opportunity to improve his ZJ. Since you've made up your mind, I'll go first. Let me take the lead. Sword spirit clenched his teeth. You can go in. But you have to let me go in front. Chu Yang took a deep breath. I'm the sword master. I'll be in front. The sword spirit said firmly, but if it's you, it's definitely me. Otherwise, even if it's me, you can still exist. So, if you don't agree with me going first, we won't go in this time. Even if it's against the sword master's orders, we might have to do it once. The corners of Chu Yang's mouth twitched. He said, okay, I'll listen to you this time. Then it's settled. Let's go in. The sword spirit's body flashed, and he went out of the tribulation space. Chu Yang followed closely behind. The sword flashed, and automatically pulled itself out. It was 5 feet away from the ground, and a black hole the size of a human head appeared below. It was so deep that one couldn't see the bottom. However, it was filled with the cold, undead energy that could corrode all living things. It was as if this place was just an entrance to a deep and serene cave. Chu Yang and the sword spirit's bodies flashed, and their bones cracked. Their entire bodies shrunk by more than half. With a whoosh, they rushed into the hole and disappeared from the ground. The sword intent turned into a long sword again, and it fell down, sealing the hole again. Everything returned to normal. At the foot of the mountain, countless people only saw what seemed to be shaking and flashing. Everyone hurriedly got up to check, but they found that there was only a ball of darkness. Although it seemed like something had happened, everyone was still filled with doubts and suspicions. This place is really evil. It's strange at every moment. I've passed by here a few times, but it's not as strange as this. Damn it. I'm really scared. Bullshit. How many people have died here? I'm afraid there are at least hundreds of thousands of them. In the martial world, how many people would die in a battle between super sects? How can it not be strange? You're right. But it's always so gloomy and cold. It's really scary. Nonsense. Who wouldn't be scared? Even the disciples of those super sects would be scared, let alone a small shrimp like you. Hurry up and go to sleep before you die. Bah. Your grandpa, your words are so unlucky. Die. Even if you die, I won't die. All right. At most, we'll all die together, okay? The Yellow Springs is not lonely. Damn it, the Yellow Springs is so serious. The number of people who died in the past few days is probably more than the number of people who died in a year. When Chu Yang and the Sword Spirit landed at the entrance of the cave, they found themselves in an extremely narrow passageway. They floated downwards. A deep darkness surrounded the two of them. Chapter 1889. This kind of darkness was different from the night sky outside. It was a completely silent darkness. A darkness that was even darker than the night sky. Even with Chu Yang's cultivation and the Sword Spirit's soul, he couldn't even see his fingers in front of him. Only Dong Xuebing's body keeps falling, and he doesn't know how long he has fallen. Dong Xuebing didn't know how long he had fallen. This black hole was really like the bottom of the mountain. Under such circumstances, an ordinary person would have already broken down. However, Chu Yang closed his eyes and didn't care about it anymore. Since it's already here, it's useless to be afraid or anxious. Since he was already here, he might as well take it easy and let nature take its course. After an unknown period of time, he felt a vast sound coming from beneath his feet. It was a very mysterious feeling. He had arrived just like that. A gust of cold wind blew in from his pants. Chu Yang slowly opened his eyes and let his eyes adapt to his surroundings. He suddenly realized that the narrow tunnel at the end of the mountain had disappeared. Now, he was actually in some kind of endless void. Below his feet was something like a plain. It was neat and tidy. It seemed to be a little strange, but he couldn't really see it. But as he fell, he slowly saw that this was actually a mountain. To be precise, it was half a mountain. The reason why it was half a mountain was because the mountain peak in front of him had been split into two for some reason. And the place where he fell was the lower half of the mountain. It was like a wooden stake that stood upright. It was erected there. Of course, this wooden stake was incomparably thick and strong. The speed at which he was falling from the sky was extremely fast. The wind whistled in his ears. Although he could see things with his eyes, because he was falling too fast, he couldn't see anything. But he could clearly see countless five-colored lights. His eardrums were about to pop out. Chu Yang didn't dare to be negligent. He circulated the heaven-splitting divine technique with all his strength and tried his best to form a protective layer around his body. Only then did he slow down the speed of his fall slightly. Then, they could see the ground. They were getting closer and closer to the ground. This time, it's probably going to be a disaster, Chu Yang thought to himself. Unfortunately, it was too late to make any changes now. Plop! Chu Yang's entire body landed on the hard ground. Although he had used the heavenly divine art to protect himself, his internal organs were still shaken, and he almost vomited a mouthful of blood. His two legs, which were the first to touch the ground, sank even deeper into the stone layer. Facing the situation before him, Chu Yang couldn't help but recall the time when ZJ had just arrived at the Heaven Palace. It seemed that he had fallen from the sky just like that. Now, he was doing the same thing again. How miraculous. It was just that this feeling had only just risen, but he could clearly feel that his feet had touched something. An unbearable pain instantly spread to his brain. This intense and sudden pain almost made Chu Yang look up to the sky and roar. It was too painful. It was too painful. Looking down, he saw that ZJ's two legs, and even half of his thighs, had sunk into the stone layer. However, they seemed to have turned into pieces at this moment. What kind of stone is this? Even if my feet were to be pierced by iron, I wouldn't feel any discomfort. Why is it that it's just a piece of broken stone? Why is ZJ in so much pain? What kind of stone is this? Chu Yang suppressed the pain. His whole body trembled as he circulated his cultivation. Only then did he pull his legs out of the stone. While he was pulling his legs out, he was in so much pain that his whole body was trembling. He clenched his teeth and didn't let ZJ groan. Looking down, although his 2 legs weren't completely smashed, they were almost done. His legs had turned into pure bone sticks. There wasn't even a trace of flesh on them. Well, it wasn't really blood. Blood flowed continuously from the upper half of his thighs like a small river. Fuck. Chu Yang screamed and sprinkled a large amount of special medicine on his thighs. The blood flow slowed down immediately. Thinking quickly, he realized that something was wrong. The most important thing now was to regrow flesh and bone. If he really sealed the flesh on his thighs, ZJ's legs would be completely crippled. Then, 2 incomplete versions of the heavy pill quickly entered his throat. Fuck, I'm so fucking unlucky. The last time I fell from a high altitude, I couldn't move. But at least I was still in one piece. This time, I fell from a high altitude and became disabled. Are you trying to play me to death? Luckily, I have heavy pills. Chu Yang muttered angrily. His face twitched continuously. It was really painful. The sword spirit couldn't help but laugh. The sword spirit was a pure soul body. There was no such thing as falling to death. Naturally, his body wasn't injured at all. Heavy pills were indeed miraculous. Speaking of which, heavy pills were really good at reviving the soul and prolonging life, promoting blood circulation, reviving the dead, and regrowing flesh and bone. Not to mention, Chu Yang didn't hesitate to swallow 2 of them. Looking at the flesh below ZJ's thigh regrowing, it was an extremely strange feeling. And Chu Yang was admiring all of this. It was a strange but real scene. Dong Xuebing stretched out his hand and pinched the hole where ZJ's feet were inserted. He tried to pinch it, but only his fingers felt pain. Damn. ZJ is not moving. ZJ can't even pinch it. Actually, it made sense when she thought about it. To be able to harm ZJ's thigh to this extent, how could it be soft? It's really a hard rock. The hardness of this rock is probably comparable to high-grade star iron. Chu Yang sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at ZJ's feet. ZJ's feet were inserted into such a hard rock. Chu Yang couldn't help but feel a little smug. I say, this is the old haunt of the god source realm. The sword spirit said, only a sect spirit mountain that has gone through countless years and absorbed countless amounts of pure spirit chi to refine it can have such a hardness. In other words, before this place was destroyed, it was a super sect. And it was a super sect that was qualified to be one of the 10 great super sect. Is it really so awesome? Chu Yang was surprised. Yes, it's awesome. It's even more awesome than you think. But, such a super sect must have as many experts as there are clouds in the sky. What kind of person could completely exterminate or even seal such a sect? There was a trace of fear in the sword spirit's eyes. Who cares about the past? Anyway, this place is ours now. Chu Yang finally stood up. The effect of the heavy pill was really amazing. In less than the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, all of his injuries were healed. When he stood on the ground again, he felt as if he was in a dream. He stomped his feet twice and said with a smile, for such serious injuries, I will die once every time. But every time I die like this, it will also bring me a layer of enlightenment. The sword spirit couldn't help but ask, enlightenment? How can there be enlightenment? What's there to be afraid of? Chu Yang laughed. Let's go and take a look around. Let's see what kind of place this is. What's there to be afraid of? The sword spirit couldn't help but twitch his mouth. He thought to himself, your face was distorted like a dried cigar just now. Now, you're actually boasting shamelessly. The thickness of your skin is really what it means to be fearless of death. Although this was the sealed land, where there was no sunlight and no stars, it was brightly lit. It was just like the outside world, except that it was full of haze. This kind of seal is at least at the level of a saint. Lord Sword Master. The sword spirit's expression changed. Seal at the level of a saint. Chu Yang pondered. You're saying that this super sect offended a saint? And that's why it was destroyed? Yes. And it shouldn't be an ordinary saint. The sword spirit looked at the bright sky and said solemnly, it should be at the level of Die Hu. Only those supreme saints can seal even the sky, and completely seal the power of the universe. The sword spirit exhaled deeply. Only this way can this place maintain such light. Ordinary sealed places shouldn't have this kind of light. There's only darkness everywhere. Chu Yang said, I feel that this sect is the real extraordinary one. It actually needs a saint-level expert to take action personally. Yuren's eyes lit up even more. In that case, there must be a lot of good stuff inside. Hey, that's Shma. The sword spirit looked in the direction of Chu Yang's finger, and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when he saw what Chu Yang was pointing at. He saw that there was also a mountain on the opposite side. The difference was that this mountain was much smaller and more slender. The top of the mountain was pointed. It wasn't like the mountain Chu Yang was standing on now, which was flat. And the most eye-catching thing was the base of that mountain. It seemed to be similar to the topmost cross-section of the mountain Chu Yang was standing on, in terms of shape and area. That mountain seems to be the top half of this mountain. What a coincidence. Chu Yang frowned and said subconsciously. At this moment, the second half of Chu Yang's sentence was actually a subconscious attempt to avoid some kind of provocation. It was just that even he was aware of this intention. Shit. It is a coincidence. The sword spirit squatted down and looked at the smooth ground. His voice trembled a little. Swordmaster, this is a mountain, but it was cut off by a sword. Chu Yang thought about the hardness of this mountain and thought again. Cut it off with a sword. It was actually cut off with a sword. He couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. If one were to talk about splitting a mountain, experts who were at the supreme martial artist level and above would be able to do it. To the current Chu Yang, it was not a big deal. However, the gravity of the Heaven Pass was 30 times that of the Heaven Pass. The stability of the rocks would also be at least 30 times stronger. Furthermore, it was in the environment of the realm of God Source. Chu Yang had personally tested the toughness of the earth and rocks. Even if he used the Calamity Sword with all his cultivation, he would only be able to dig a small hole in this mountain. And this mountain was obviously an exceptionally majestic mountain. That day, it was actually cut in half by a sword. Chapter 1890. Chu Yang imagined the demeanor of this saint back then and couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration and fascination. If this saint was me, after the sword cut it, the entire top half of the mountain flew out and landed on one side. It wasn't even intentional. The sword spirit looked at the distance between the two mountains, his face twitching as he continued to narrate the shocking facts. Lord Sword Lord, you are wrong. There is a difference between having an expert on the same mountain and having an expert on the same mountain, the sword spirit murmured. The hardness of this mountain back then was probably 1,000 times more than what it is now. Especially when facing an enemy, it should be even more terrifying. Chu Yang opened his mouth wide, and shuddered in fear. How strong must one be to be able to do this? Can one really reach such a level? Those past events are too distant for us. Let's search the foot of the mountain first. Chu Yang took a breath and expelled all the shocked emotions in his heart. But in his heart, he had an intuitive understanding. Damn it, the Shueleyahan that I scolded every day is actually such a terrifying existence. I really can't tell by comparison. The two of them went along the way and saw that there were some grass and shrubs growing on the mountain top. This was the most surprising thing. On one side, there was a mountain path with white jade railings and green jade steps winding down. Chu Yang and the sword spirit went down the steps. Just as they went down 2 steps, the sword spirit Yuren shuddered and looked at the dense trees on both sides in a daze. He murmured, Kanglan wood. The entire mountain is actually filled with Kanglan wood. Kanglan wood? That's something. Chu Yang asked curiously. Kanglan wood used to be an extremely rare kind of wood 150,000 years ago. Speaking of which, This type of tree itself isn't anything special, but it is extremely hard. Not to mention ordinary steel, even star steel may not be able to compare to the hardness of Kanglan wood. Thus, as long as the conditions permit, most people would use Kanglan wood as the handle of their weapons. However, later on, everyone began to realize that although the Kanglan wood was hard enough, it was corroded very easily. Therefore, it was gradually eliminated from use. There was an unexpected discovery. The core of the azure wave wood was actually all purple and very dazzling. And it wasn't rotten like the rest of the body. Because of this, the azure billow wood's tree core was collected by various large worlds to be used as a material to make coins. However, later on, it was discovered that the azure billow wood's tree core coins were easily imitated. Hence, star dream iron was added to make purple cloud coins, and so on. The sword spirit took a deep breath and said, "Lord Swordmaster, there are so many pieces of azure billow wood here, and they are all at least hundreds of thousands of years old or even millions of years old. It's definitely a huge fortune." Chu Yang grinned. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Wake up. You think. As long as this news gets out, will I be able to occupy it?" The sword spirit was stunned for a moment. Then, he said dejectedly, "That's right. This thing belongs to the government. No private person can occupy it." Chu Yang said calmly, "That's why I didn't think about it. Otherwise, I'd be even more disappointed." Yuren kicked a big tree and cursed. "Damn it, there's so much money in front of me. It's gone just like that. You're clearly always short of money, yet you still come up with such a pile of things to humiliate me. God, are you addicted to playing with me? Damn it." The sword spirit was stunned. "You call this not disappointed? You didn't take it to heart. But if that bastard Xue Leihan wants to take all these away from me, he'll have to give me some benefits no matter what. Otherwise, I'll cut them all with my sword. If I can't get any benefits, no one else can either." Chu Yang said fiercely. Yuren stared at him. "Hey, that's shit." How powerful was Chu Yang's kick? The Kanglan wood at his feet shook violently. Yuren dropped something from above and smashed onto the ground with a plop. "Ganoderma?" Chu Yang was dumbfounded as he looked at the thing that was originally snow-white and had broken into 8 pieces in front of him but had turned purplish red. "This works too." He couldn't help but look up. "Are you an idiot?" The sword spirit rushed over and picked up the Ganoderma, his face full of heartache. "This is a snow jade purple heart Ganoderma that can only grow on azure wave wood. How can it be smashed just like that? This is the purest heavenly treasure, and it's even a good thing that's hundreds of thousands of years old. You don't even know what shit is. You're really going to piss me off. This can be considered a blessing in disguise. If the people of this sect were still around, how could such a snow jade purple heart Ganoderma be preserved until now?" While complaining, the sword spirit was also somewhat glad. It was all thanks to this sect being sealed. Otherwise, where would they find such a good thing in the current Heaven Imperial Court? Speaking of which, the sword spirit's complaint was completely reasonable. It was purely the kind of pity that such a good thing had been ruined. Chu Yang didn't do it on purpose either. Although young Master Chu didn't know anything and was inexperienced, he wasn't that kind of prodigal playboy, but after this incident, Chu Yang became even more cautious. His eyes were shining as he walked. Could it be that only one tree has such a thing? There are so many of them here, there should be a lot more. There must be. He simply released the Tribulation Sword and let Tribulation Sword Z search for it. This was a big deal. Wow. Another one. There's a super sealwood here. There's actually a red ginseng here, and it's at least hundreds of thousands of years old. The exquisite blood ginseng here actually produced ginseng essence, another snow jade purple heart Ganoderma, and it's even older than the previous one. Here, and here, it seemed that the sword spirit had stopped calling after they had walked less than 1/5 of the way down the mountain. In the beginning, Chu Yang had been making a fuss about nothing. Then, he had become indifferent. Later on, he had become indifferent. Because there were really too many good things here. There were so many that they couldn't collect them all. If Ruguer didn't have the support of the tribulation space, Chu Yang and the sword spirit would probably be heartbroken. With just the two of them, they couldn't even collect the most precious things. This was a mountain that had been visited by humans for at least 400,000 to 500,000 years. One could imagine how many good things it could produce. As the saying goes, there were really too many to count. Moreover, this mountain wasn't an ordinary mountain in the sense of the word. It was the heart mountain of the godly source realm, the place where super sects gathered. The abundance of spiritual chi had long reached an appalling level. There was no doubt that such a mountain would produce even more heavenly treasures. Chu Yang kept throwing them into the tribulation space, and the three medicine spirits inside were happily transplanting them. Only ginseng was given special treatment. No matter if it was blood ginseng, jade ginseng, ordinary ginseng, or exquisite ginseng, etc. There were hundreds of types of ginseng, and dozens of each type were transplanted into the tribulation space. The three medicine spirits had to first absorb a certain amount of essence from each ginseng. After confirming that there was at least a portion of essence in all the ginseng in the tribulation space, the rest were directly devoured by the three medicine spirits without any hesitation. In other words, the ginseng that was harvested this time turned into dried radishes in the blink of an eye. In the beginning, the devouring speed was still somewhat slow. But later on, as the medicine spirit's abilities continued to evolve, the devouring speed was something that could be done in the blink of an eye. Of course, although the medicine spirit ate happily, there were still some things that he didn't know. All the elixirs that had been selected by the tribulation sword had actually been sucked by the tribulation sword in the most essential parts first. In addition, the tribulation sword had another great advantage: it wasn't picky with its food. For example, if it encountered a big bunch of ginseng, the tribulation sword would even suck up all the ginseng that had just sprouted for 1 or 2 years. Wherever the tribulation sword passed by, not even a blade of grass was left. No medicine was left behind. Because those that couldn't be brought away, or those that were disdained to be brought away, were all sucked dry. Heavenly treasures instantly turned into withered grass. So it wasn't that not even a blade of grass was left behind. It was more appropriate to describe it as withered grass everywhere it passed by. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, swoosh swoosh swoosh. The tribulation sword was in high spirits, and the three medicine spirits were overjoyed. However, the sword spirit and Chu Yang were a little dispirited. There were too many good things, and bending down to pick them up too many times seemed to be a kind of trouble. It was really tiring. Later on, Minister Chu, who felt tired, went down the mountain directly, leaving the sword spirit and the tribulation sword to search for elixirs. The tribulation sword was responsible for discovering, devouring, and excavating, while the sword spirit was responsible for transporting the elixirs into the tribulation space. The three medicine spirits waited for the elixirs to come in, and chose to devour, absorb, and transplant them. The three sides each performed their own duties, and in the end, it was a little mechanized. No matter how small a mountain was, it was still a mountain. Moreover, how small could a mountain that was chosen as the core of a super sect's headquarters be? Even with the sword spirit and the tribulation sword, two heaven-defying existences that were beyond human comprehension, it actually took them more than an hour to clean up half of the mountain. If they let people in now, they would probably be so shocked that their eyeballs would pop out. This was too fucking clean. The world-famous realm of God Source, where the soul-suppressing stone was, after the seal was opened, not even a single elixir could be found. Even ordinary herbs can be used for medicinal purposes. There was only withered grass in sight. What the fuck was this? This was simply a miracle. Of course, they still couldn't come in, but Chu Yang, who came in through the tribulation sword, really found a miracle. Isn't this a sect? Wasn't the tribulation sword destroyed by someone? Where are the people? Even if there's no one, there should be corpses, right? Where did they go? Didn't they say that there's a divine soul of a tribulation below? Where's the divine soul of a tribulation? Where did it go? Why didn't I see anything? Chu Yang was puzzled by this. The sword spirit also seemed to be puzzled. This was completely incomprehensible. However, it was lucky that they didn't see anything. If they really did, It would be fatal. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.